I'm here. Yep. I made myself some food. Stream will begin in 5 minutes. Wait, fuck, the song is still playing. Oh well, let's look at this one. This one looks cooler. Yeah. I made myself some fried eggs with some hot dogs. I'll just be eating while this shit is happening. And then I'll probably play some more Diablo 4. But most likely not another 8 hours, alright? I mean, I need to sleep at some point. Nom nom nom. So anyway, in the 1 hour that I was gone, I was looking at some things and I found out some very interesting bits about the game. Yeah, what up? Apparently, I guess I closed the videos. Like, apparently there's like a easy farm to get like 10 raffle hearts an hour. I checked it out and it was kind of stupid. Like, it just requires you to just go into a dungeon, check for free elites, and then leave. And then just like repeat this process over and over, not actually killing any enemies. But like, I guess that could work. Not like I'm gonna do it. It's taking 4 more minutes because old guy had to go buy snacks. Say that after they're 4 minutes late. Which might happen, it's Blizzard. Imagine they make like this entire campfire chat that's like completely based only on the fact that people are pissed off, and they would just like show up 20 minutes late just to piss people off even more. By the way, do you see what I see? Like, did Blizzard actually do you see that? Did they actually draw that on the character? I didn't notice that before. Man, you can see that thing like through the fabric. Is this even allowed on Twitch? You know what? Who am I kidding? Of course it is. I mean, it's fucking. Actually, no, I'm not gonna type anything, alright? I'm not sussing myself out. This fucking search bar is cursed, alright? Anytime I type anything, it's gonna be things that you don't wanna see, alright? I ain't gonna bait myself into doing that. And actually, I might get banned on YouTube for showing what Twitch can show just like normally. On the just chatting section. I would fuck. Huh? Huh? So true. Reminds me of that Lilith cosplay. But is it Diablo 4 Reddit? No, that's just Reddit. Wait, but I can get to Diablo 4 through this. Big brain. I don't have to click on the search bar. This week. Wasn't there like a Lilith cosplay? I'm pretty sure there was. Is it gone? Actually, it might have been NSFW. No, no way. It has to be like the top post. It might have been in a month. Mate, was it even longer? Man, I still remember seeing that AI art of Lilith on YouTube. But I can just like do this. Fucking. I know he showed it. I guess that wasn't the name of the video. Well, alright, I'm not looking for it. That's all I can spare. Anyway, so basically there is apparently a way to farm malignant hearts, like the wrathful hearts. Like an easy way. but it's basically stupid as hell because like you can't kill any enemies, and you just like you're just walking around a dungeon looking for elites that are wrathful. It's kind of dumb. But there was apparently like one of the malignant tunnels. I wrote down the name, called Dinde Hollow. Apparently that one is like one of the best XP farms in the game. Like literally you just like run the dungeon over and over again. You just finish it completely. And it's like one of the best XP farms. And on top of that you're farming malignant hearts, which is very useful for the end game, I guess. They ran out but still late. Oh shit, they're actually 1 minute late right now. Yeah, you know what's funny? They still have the old description for like the previous live stream. Diablo Immortal. Tune in and learn more about the monstrous new class coming to Diablo Immortal in mid-July. Mate, it came out 2 weeks ago. what do you mean? What are you talking about? Wait, oh my god, don't even tell me. Imagine if Blizzard started this live stream by talking about Diablo Immortal. It's like at that point, they might as well just come out and be like, whoa, April Fools, we got you. This wasn't the actual season or something. Like, people are so fucking mad at the game, imagine. And they're 2 minutes late now. Maybe you were right. Rod is buying snacks. He'll be back in 4 minutes. You know what? I'm gonna fucking look for the video. It's taking too long. Flips. Oh yeah, by the way, Henry Cavill is going to be starring in a Warhammer not a movie, I think a show, like on the Netflix or something. But like he actually had like a thing to say about it. Henry Cavill he's fucking Superman, the guy who played Geralt. Like how the fuck do you know who Henry Cavill is? It's like he's like the most popular actor in like the last 2 years or something. It's like this guy is actually hyped up about it, which means that it's actually gonna be good. Because like when he was talking about Witcher, which he like absolutely fucking hated working on because like the people who were making that show just like hated the original like book, you know, the thing that it was based on. So like he was always just like mad and kind of like negative about it. But now he actually looks like genuinely happy. So maybe the director for this show might actually like want to make something that is like, you know, that like stays true to the Warhammer universe, which could actually be amazing because Warhammer 40k is a fucking amazing universe. They're 3 minutes late, by the way, just so we're clear. Where was the... My fucking god, these debate thumbnails. Where was the fucking Lilith? Oh, there it is, this one. This is the one. Like, AI art is really good, I'll tell you that much. I'll mute the video. It says it's NSFW, but it's really not. It's just fucking Lilith in bikini. It's some good shit. Man, I fucking love AI. I really do be doing some good stuff. Way better than this thing. Yep. Yeah, that's it. I don't think there's any more. That's about it. Can the stream start? I'm running out of content, alright? Oh, by the way, look what I got. Oh, never mind, hold on. I got the live stream. Of course they start with this shit.
I am writing to you because although a great evil is receding from Sanctuary, a new festering curse now spreads its corruption across the land. More dangerous, more malignant than I could have imagined. found a way to stop this plague. To rip the dark power of these monsters from their very core and turn it to our advantage in destroying them.
Yeah, yeah, I got myself an emote.
But I can't do this alone. My
Oh,
eyes
fucking
will
Blizzard.
follow.
Old guy having trouble opening the cookies. It's a nice story.
Malignant
Yeah,
are
dude.
relentless and without mercy. I need help. I need you.
He needs me, smiley face? Oh no.
Hello, Diablo community. Welcome to another Diablo 4 campfire chat.
They shouldn't
My
have
name
brought
is
this
Adam
guy,
Walker.
I can tell you
I
that
am
much.
the associate director.
Rod isn't even here.
Diablo. I'm joined here by Joe Shelley, game director of Diablo 4, and Mr. Joe Piper.
This is good. This is the guy who's at fault for making the
Diablo
season
4. We have a lot
actually
to talk about
not really
today.
that bad, to be honest.
Obviously,
It's
we
actually
have
pretty
this campfire chat
alright.
because we do want to talk about the patch that just released this past week.
Oh no.
Which is patch 110. We've seen a ton of feedback.
Rod?
We've heard a lot of feedback. And so we do want to go through, you know, a lot of the points of feedback that we've been hearing and at the same time the patch itself. The biggest thing that, you know, to kind of like kick us off here, I think we want to, you know, obviously acknowledge everyone's feedback in regards to reducing player power.
Look at them pretend they care about
it is
feedback.
bad. We know.
But yeah, of
it
course
is
they
not
care.
fun.
They care when people
And
quit the
it's
game and they
something that, you know,
start losing
we
revenue.
ourselves
They
know
got rid
that,
of the laughing fat guy.
it's not the greatest
They got rid of the
for
druid.
players out there. We do want to explain why we ended up doing it within the
Man,
actual patch.
if you think about
and
it,
then, of course,
he's
we
the
also wanna talk about,
necromancer,
like, what we were trying to achieve,
he's the barbarian,
specifically,
he's the
with
rogue,
this patch,
and the rogue was
with the
druid.
changes that players ended up seeing. And then separately, we do want to also
They don't
talk
have a
about
sword.
how we don't
Sword
plan on
doesn't
doing
exist.
a patch like this ever again. We have most definitely heard the feedback from the players on that front, and we do want to talk a little bit about, you know, our philosophy, our own internal statements that we're setting for ourselves for future updates for the game itself. And then, of course, we do want to also talk about how we can talk better and communicate with the community better in regards to patches and updates coming to the game and what we can do to improve on that. So I know that the first thing we do want to talk about, though, as I said, was talking about, you know, why we ended up doing this in this patch. And I do want to throw it over to Mr. Joe Piper over here to talk a little bit more about that.
Sure. So I know that we've talked on stream before
Giga
about
Chat Joe.
our intentions for Diablo 4 being a game about choice.
I love Joe.
And
He's my favorite
part of that is
guy.
ensuring that the various class options feel that they've got a place in the meta experience. And that kind of goes to some of the changes we made in 1.1.
This guy
Now,
started
Adam already called
balding.
out that we heard the feedback with regard to the patch, and we know that reducing player power is never a good experience in general. And I want to talk through like sort of some of the things that brought us to where we are today in terms of decisions we were making and why. So a few of the really big changes that were made as part of 1.1.
True.
First, really, I guess to cooldown reduction. We changed the amount of CDR that players can get as part of in the affix ranges and items that are rolling for them as they're going through the experience.
What's your reasoning?
CDR is one of the, if not the most powerful stat in many ways in Diablo 4.
Yeah, that's great.
And the
So is
reason
that
for
why you
this
nerfed it?
is, when you're able to get CDR to a certain point, when using certain class mechanisms, you're able to get effectively like instantaneous like active skills.
I literally
So,
don't
like,
think
that
a
can
single
give you,
person
like,
managed to do
unlimited,
that, but okay.
Resource, it can give you unlimited movement speed, give you unlimited damage resist, and it begins to dwarf the effectiveness of other options when you can start trying to take these things into account. Now, we know that blasting through content with those things is really fun, so it feels really, really painful to have to take some of those things away. And we certainly don't relish the idea. That was the original thinking for these sorts of bits. One of the reasons why we think that these builds are very prevalent at the moment is based upon like the nature of some of the endgame content we have in Diablo 4. In particular, thinking about Nightmare Dungeons especially. The reality is that Nightmare Dungeons are dramatically overtuned from where they actually need to be based upon the place they fill in, the role they fill in the game itself. So tier 100 Nightmare Dungeons are excruciatingly difficult for most players to, most classes to be able to actually get through.
That's true.
And as a result, it begins to kind of winnow the opportunities and options that players have when they begin to engage with content at that tier, such that you really do require, you need to lean on very, very specific builds, very specific setups, you know, with access to things like near instantaneous cooldowns for some skills, in an effort to actually like make it through those spaces.
True.
And that was never really the intent of that content.
Wait, what?
And we see that, right? Players are using Nightmare Dungeons as ways to kind of like level up their glyphs, ways for them to gain experience and loot as they're progressing up. It's largely like a level up system that you're progressing with once you get into world tiers 3 and 4. But they've taken on an outsized role as sort of this new end game chase opportunity for players who are looking to really challenge themselves. And we love that we want that kind of content and we want that experience for those players. And we feel like we have done a reasonably good job of that with Uber Lilith in the game. But we don't feel that like tier 100 Nightmare Dungeons fulfill the same role at all. Just the nature of the content type doesn't actually work well as that kind of pushing opportunity. So one thing we actually plan on doing, and we'd hope to get out as part of this release, we're going to get out very, very soon.
Say it.
Is we're making a reduction in the difficulty of some aspects of Nightmare Dungeons to kind of retune some
Thank
things.
you.
And the goal here is to say that, you know, we think that that's roughly where you are with like a Nightmare Dungeon tier 70. That's kind of where we actually want the difficulty to be for a tier 100.
Because that's
as
great.
Players are going through the experience. So there's still a thing to push for, but it's more reasonable. And as part of this exchange, we know that players really like kind of blasting and pushing hard for these sorts of things. They feel like big achievements.
Okay.
We are going to be looking at creating a new content type, a new end game content type that's going to be more directly meant to address those sorts of players and give people more things to chase.
Okay, that's
part of
cool.
the
That's
commitment
great.
with live services.
I like
to make
that.
sure we're always adding new things like this.
So when's that coming out? Season 20 or 24 or 2024 or something like that?
To go and try to kind of chase after to kind of maximize and use their builds in fun and interesting ways. So that's another really big thing.
No, but like okay, this is like actually
next,
good.
we made a number of changes to the to sorceress skill, like sorceress builds in general. That sort of ended up having a net impact of like really reducing their effectiveness with some of their most powerful builds at the moment. And the goal at the time was to try to bring their builds back in line with one another so that we could start trying to bring everything up at once, as opposed to having these things as they are.
Sorc players
and
looking at this.
You know, this actually leads to a really good conversation about the idea of balance in general. I said before that Diablo 4 is a game that is about choice, and that remains our goal. You know, that's our guiding light. We're trying to make decisions on balance and design in general. And sometimes we don't always get it quite right. You know, and I think that we see that with some builds that are just simply
You mean like every patch? Is every patch sometimes, but yeah, sure.
Not performing to the level they need to be because they just don't have the right interactions with the kind of content or skills that you actually really want to use to get through the game. You know, this is an example of like when we're thinking about our goals in terms of creating this balanced experience where there's lots of interesting choices for players to engage with. You know, we cannot make balanced decisions without kind of accounting for the way that players are going to feel about those things who are playing those classes. Like if our goal is to create an ultimately balanced experience, you know, without regard for how much fun the player's having as part of that exchange.
What?
You know, that's ultimately that would be like a failure on our part to not kind of think about things.
Yes, like what you literally did in like 3 days ago, buddy. That's literally what you did. You didn't think about the fun people were having like at all. You know, like people were complaining about the fact that everything is going down to shitter, everything is too hard, and then you just decide to nerf everyone, especially Sorcs, who were like the worst class, and you somehow managed to nerf them the most out of everyone. Which is like, huh? How? Okay. Alright, sure. Please,
so
continue.
We have plans that I know that we're going to talk about a little bit later to kind of address this more clearly. But understand that we've heard this, and we have plans in the very near future to address these sorts of things. Another bit that speaks to this is the change that was made for vulnerable damage. Now, I think that there are a lot of players.
I honestly think the change to vulnerable damage was needed. Okay, vulnerable damage is a garbage mechanic. It's too fucking strong. It needed to be nerfed. Okay, vulnerable damage. I don't think anyone actually would care if vulnerable damage was nerfed, as long as everything else got like slightly buffed. But that's not what happened. You know, like they nerfed everything and they gave us like very, very slight buffs that like didn't matter at all. Like, but nerfing vulnerable damage is actually the correct thing, and I don't blame them for it. It's gonna eventually make the game good, but people don't give a shit about eventually. People give a shit about the game right now. That's why everyone is complaining. You know, devs can't just like make changes that are going to be like really good 4 months from now, and just like completely forget about the fact that people are playing the game today. You know. Like, so like yeah, I mean, as I said, like I enjoyed the season so far, so like I don't really care, but yeah, I can 100% see why people are mad as fuck.
Players in the community who like kind of dove deep into a lot of our systems in Diablo 4 and kind of see that vulnerable damage is a really outsized role that it plays in terms of a lot of build making, you know, and to the point where it feels that, you know, you'll get to certain parts of content and creatures sort of need to be vulnerable in order for you to feel that you need to that you can damage them. You know, this is something that we're very aware of, and we made a reduction as part of the 1.1 build that reduced player damage in general, because most players rely on many builds, I should say, rely on vulnerable damage to deal to kind of spike in lots of different kinds of content. This is something we also need to talk about. Vulnerable damage is far more potent right now than we actually want it to be in general across the game.
That's
We've
great.
talked about this before. And we need to make a number of, we need to kind of bring these things back in line. But this is a more...
I am glad that this is something that they're making their stance on. If they actually, you know, like completely crumbled under pressure and just buffed vulnerable to what it was before, I would actually lose more hope in Blizzard than I already did. Because it's like, vulnerable needed to be nerfed. Like, if they go back on that, that's just like a stupid move. They need to keep it nerfed, 100%. But like, the other things need to be slightly buffed at least.
This is a more complicated conversation than simply just saying we can take a bonus damage to vulnerable creatures number and reduce it by 40% in terms of the kind of the amount of damage you can accrue across different sources, and have that be the way that we solve this problem. Really, I think we all know that the ultimate problem with damage to vulnerable creatures, the fact is multiplicative stacking on top of the base vulnerable damage, which is already multiplicative on its own. Like this is the reason why the stat plays such an outsized role in a lot of player builds. We're going to need to move that to an additive place, but we can't do that without making a number of other adjustments to critical strike damage, to the way that overpower damage is both calculated and dealt to creatures, and the availability of these things across various builds. You know, there's lots of builds that rely on vulnerable, and they're balanced around the idea that the damage is also multiplicative. So a number of their balance and tuning changes will need to be made in order to be able to bring vulnerable back in line with some of the other options we have out there. So this is how we're kind of thinking about these things moving forward. We want to start trying to be a little more inclusive of all of these decisions when we begin considering which of these balance adjustments we want to make, rather than being in this iterative place where we're making small adjustments to a number of different things along the way with an end goal in mind of where we actually eventually want to be. We want to be trying to consider what the experience is going to be like from moment to moment, rather from update to update and release to release, to get things in a better spot. So while we do believe that having our season roll gives us the opportunity to kind of reset our meta and change a lot of things, that obviously has an impact on internal players, the way that they kind of perceive the characters they're still playing in that space, and it can be disruptive for players who found a particular playstyle that they're really excited about. So so I know that Joe, you're going to talk about some of these things in a minute. So this is an awkward handoff, but I just want to make it right. It's a very awkward handoff. Okay. I'm sorry, but I want people to understand that we do hear the things that they're saying. We do.
Wait,
plan
what?
on making
Did the camera turn off? I wasn't looking for a second.
About how we want to address these things moving forward. And with that, I guess
I was reaching for a minute.
About your thinking.
Yeah. So I think it's a great point. a great
Screen went
lead
black
in
for
here.
like 3 seconds.
And you want, as
I
Ab-
literally looked down for like 5 seconds, and while I was looking down, are you telling me that for that entire time the screen was black? It's like that was, I guess, like the perfect time for me to just look down for some reason.
what I mentioned, we want to talk
Like I
about.
didn't see it at all.
We've kind of talked a little bit about how we got
Like
here.
if you didn't type that comment, I would
We
have
want to talk
no
about,
idea.
what we're going to do about that. I mean, I think one of the really
I
good points
believe you.
you
I
made
don't
is like,
think
you know, vulnerable is, for example, vulnerable is like a must-take stat, right? And it would be better if it wasn't a must-take stat.
More of
yes,
a build option.
The game will be better when that's the case.
that's
But
correct.
if along the
100%.
way to getting to that, the game is less fun, then we're not fulfilling our obligation to players, right?
That's right.
So I want to talk about
I want to talk about how every single time we see a game director at Blizzard, they they always start balding. Like the amount of stress that these people are under at all times is just making all of them lose hair. Like there was another like game director at Blizzard who like he had a head full of hair, and then like 3 years later or like 2 years later he was just like completely fucking bald. Like he has I feel like working at Blizzard isn't good for your health. It's just there should be like a fucking health warning.
our mission statement for the live game, and I think we have a
Oh, yeah.
yeah, perfect. So there are four parts to this. We're going to start with the first part. We want the live game to always have a wide variety of viable builds to discover, to put together, to acquire the items for, and to optimize across all 5 of our classes. Second point, every season should introduce new items and powers that keep the game fresh and increase build variety. Moving on to the third point, the live game should also have continually evolving end game content. And that content needs to have high monster density for powerful builds to mow down, and it needs to have activities that challenge your build. And you were just talking about how while Nightmare Dungeons, I'll get to the fourth point in a second. While Nightmare Dungeons are technically challenging your build, they're challenging your build in some ways that are not very fun, right?
Yep.
Like being CC'd all the time.
Yes, that's correct.
And-
20 years of Nightmare Dungeons where every monster can one-shot you, and then if you get clipped by one bit of chill, you're permanently snared, right? Or got completely frozen. Like these are not things that the Nightmare Dungeons system is doing particularly well right now in terms of making challenging content.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's so important, your call out that we plan to introduce additional content that fulfills that part of the mission statement to challenge your builds. If we can go back to the screen, I got kind of sidetracked, but I think it was really important. And
Okay.
of course, ultimately what we're trying to do is make the game more fun for players.
Make the
right?
game more
Players are at the heart
fun.
of
I'll
everything
get to
we
that
do.
in a second.
And if the game is not more fun for players, and we're not making the game, if players can't believe that as the game evolves, it will get more fun, then we're not accomplishing our goals either, right? And so the other point I want to go to here is a change that, Adam was talking about. How do we make sure that the next time we do a patch, we don't have, this doesn't happen, right? And so I want to talk.
Okay, so like, you know what? I was quiet for a while, but I need to really pause and just like talk about for a second, all right? Everything they're saying is just like what the players want to hear, okay? But what I care about is the timing, okay? When are you gonna start doing this? How long do we have to wait before you introduce this magical new content that is gonna make us all have fun? Like they're basically saying that they want to introduce content where there's like high monster density, aka they're basically saying that they want to bring in greater rifts from Diablo 3, or just like Nephilim rifts, I guess, more like that. Just so you have a thing that you can just like go through and destroy everything, all right? Which is something that every ARPG needs, which is something that Diablo 4 doesn't have, because the content like that doesn't exist. And if it does exist, it's just like subpar to all the other content, so it's not worth doing. I mean, like, technically you can just go into World Tier 1 and just mow down all the enemies, but there's still not, like, a high enough density for it to actually be fun. So basically, like, everything they're saying is, like, good, but they're basically saying, like, okay, we want to do this, but, like, when are you gonna do it? Like, that's the main question. Like, we want to know, like, the timing. I think they already failed most people left and will never come back. You fuck up trust once and regaining it is super hard. Yeah, that's 100% true. I mean, you've seen the fucking Metacritic score. It's like people fucking downvoted the game to like 2.5 before the season even released. So it's like most people have just been like rating the actual like Eternal Realm season 1, which honestly, like, that's still a part of the game, you know, like the Eternal Realm wasn't just like cut out of the game. And the fact is that Eternal Realm doesn't get Malignant Hearts. So like season 1 characters are going to eventually be way stronger than season 0, I guess, characters, because like season 0 doesn't get the Malignant Hearts. So yeah, it's like, even though I think that the season 1 was so far like decent, like I haven't seen anything bad about it. Like my character was doing like good damage, like actually like great damage. I've been playing a druid and like I haven't had any issues. I would definitely not rate the game 2.5 out of 10, but still, like, people are not gonna give you a second chance after they see you fuck up that hard. So they introduced more inventory clutter via hearts. Yeah, that's like one of the few problems that I have with the season. Like the hearts taking up more space. Like inventory is like the biggest issue right now. And the fact that you have to click on the hearts after you kill an enemy, which is like kind of weird to me. Like why doesn't the malignant version just immediately spawn? Like you always want to kill the malignant version. So like why wouldn't it just like respawn immediately? I don't really get that, but sure. Let's
Talk
continue.
about we call it a key process improvement. That's like a weird jargon term. A change that we're making that will help us avoid this situation. So I think we have a slide for this. When we make, and this goes, again, this is
fucking PowerPoint
right along what you're
presentation.
we make changes to increase build diversity. Our goal, going back to the mission statement, is we want to have a wide variety of viable builds, right? So when we make changes that have the ultimate aim of increasing build diversity, we need to pair those changes with compelling alternatives. And that means that there are some builds that'll be overpowered. And we can't nerf those overpowered builds without providing compelling alternatives for players to pursue.
That's right. It means that things like when we identify that there are a few.
Are you actually shitting me? Okay, so like, so they know what they did wrong. Why did you do it in the first place? Like, because this is literally what they did. Like they didn't just nerf the overpowered builds. They nerfed the overpowered builds and they nerfed everyone else too. And they provided zero alternatives. Like, it's great hearing that they will not do that again. But like, I guess we'll just see in the future, you know? But like, why did they do it in the first place? Like, that's the thing. Like, most people don't want to hear like, okay, we are going to fix this, we are going to do this. People want to hear like, hey, we fixed it. Next patch is coming in like 1 day or 2 days and every single one of your problems is solved. Like, that's what we want to hear. We don't give a shit about, oh, we know we did wrong and we will try to do better. Like, that doesn't matter to anyone, because it's like the only thing people care about are results. And these are not the results. Like, they literally like fucked up the game for no reason. Like people are making it to be a way bigger deal than it actually is, let's be honest. But still, they did like bad choices all around. And when are you gonna fix it? You know, like season 2, season 3, season 4, season 1,003,000, or is it gonna be fixed in next week? Like, if you say that you will fix all of this next week, even if it's just like reverting the patch, everyone would immediately be like, okay, all right, you know what, that's fine. Like everyone would immediately mellow out, and they will be like, okay, like you shouldn't have done it, but like, okay, you're fine. We don't really care. It's like, if they're gonna say like, okay, it's gonna take us a month before we do this, because I mean, making fucking stash tabs, it's taking them like this fucking long. So like, who knows when they're going to actually like do the things that they say they're gonna do. Like, as I said, like this stream is just making me more pissed off. Like I was actually pretty chill before it. It's like hearing them say this shit. It's like, you know, like I don't care about words. I care about actions. And so far, I haven't heard a single date. I'm going to make it faster, and when anything happens, I'll just talk about it. Blizzard always has a lot of hype for their games because of cinematics and shit like that. And it begins with millions of players. Then they fuck everything up, and then only the most hardcore and addicted players remain. And Blizzard is then forever licking their wounds with that game, because it never heals. Yeah, the same shit happened with Overwatch. Yep. It like happens with every fucking Blizzard game. You know what? Let's be honest, okay? It's not just like Blizzard the only one who does this shit. Like, name one AAA company that doesn't do shit this exact same way. It's like, I feel like every fucking AAA company that's like making actually huge games. I'm not talking about indie studios right now. I'm talking about like massive fucking games. Every single company does this shit. One AAA company not named From Software. I honestly do not count From Software as a AAA company. Like straight up, I don't think they're a AAA company. I would actually consider them more of an indie dev than a AAA company. I don't know why. That might just be my weird opinion or something, but like they feel like they're not made by a big, like it feels like they don't have like a big conglomerate looming above their head, you know? It feels like they're just like have a bunch of devs, and the devs just do whatever the fuck they want, and that's it. But I mean, I don't know what it's like. I mean, let's be honest, Japanese companies, Japanese companies, like they in general just like don't follow trends, and they like work better somehow. I don't get how they do it, but like fucking Final Fantasy 16, 14, like I get pretty much every Final Fantasy game is like fucking great. Then you have like Nintendo, and like, okay, like Nintendo does some bullshit, but like in general, whenever they make a game, people are hyped as fuck, and everyone just like kind of likes them, like Smash Bros, Super Mario, all that shit. And like from Software and their Souls games and their Armored Core shit, it's like Japanese devs, they just like they somehow do everything correctly every single time. I don't know how they do it. They're kind of like a freelance developers. Publishers pay them to make games and let them do it how they want, or else From Software doesn't care. Yeah, basically. It's basically like, as I said, closer to like an indie dev studio rather than an actual like AAA company that has like investors and shit like that. It's like telling them what to do and that kind of shit. Uh, but anyway, I'm gonna
do
make it
individual,
faster.
like meta builds or stats that are like really, really powerful within preseason or within a season. That until we have created those other options and redesigned things around the nature of these and made sure that we've lifted up other options and brought everything in line, we're not going to move on those changes. There's going to be always situations where there are extraordinary outliers. That we're going to want. They're usually relying on like actual bugs that we need to address. But when it comes to like trying to bring things back in line with one another, we want to be able to make sure that we're doing those. When we make those decisions, we have a bevy of other options and alternatives available for players to engage with at the same time. So if players see us taking like a toy away, that we're giving lots of other toys, we're lifting up other toys, to make them more viable as part of the exchange.
Yeah, and that those toys are equally exciting.
Yes.
So let's go to the second point of this here. When we make changes like this, it's important for us to make them at predictable times, and Adam's going to talk a little bit more about our communication strategy here in a bit. The start of a season is an especially good time for meta changes to happen because there's a big refresh, everyone is rolling new characters, and there's new seasonal content. Right? And changes like that will also appear in Eternal at the same time. And the third point here, as Joe alluded to, there are certain situations. We saw a case where we had a skill that could do 10 to the 37 damage. In cases like that where the damage is literally breaking the game or crashing the servers, we'll still react to those situations. But that doesn't change the first point here in terms of allowing builds to be overpowered. And I think one of the things that's important for to recognize and state is that ultimately ARPGs, or some people call them hack and slash games, are about power fantasy, right? And they're about us inviting players to break the game to some extent, not to crash. Like there are lots of ways to interpret the word break.
It's about power fantasy, except it's not about the player power fantasy, it's about the mob's power fantasy. How fast they can stun you and kill you. They don't actually care about your damage.
But and find fun toys that we've made, do crazy things with them, and we need to make sure that we aren't trying.
This game was made for our AI overlords. Finally, a game where the AI can do the same bullshit that players have been doing to it for the past few decades. You know, just like permanently stun locking them, you know, dealing insane amount of damage, just like one-shotting them. That kind of shit. Now the AI can finally see what it's like.
Trying to punish players for doing that, like, because ultimately that's the playground we built. That's like we built a game that's like, go find crazy stuff, and we need to make sure that when players
yeah, go find crazy stuff like those unique legendaries that drop like 1 in a billion years or something, and it's like easier to win the lottery twice in a row than find one of these ultra rare legendaries, legendary uniques or whatever they are. And those things I really look forward to never seeing, like every other player. Imagine if I actually dropped a Harlequin crest. Like, imagine that. Yeah, you can only imagine it. That's about it.
take that invitation, that we're not punishing them for that.
Yeah, and I know when we were talking about at least the Nightmare Dungeon stuff beforehand, and we can go into it in a little bit more detail once we get to the stuff that might be coming down the pipe here. The one thing I think that I wanted to like really highlight on was, you know, obviously we did this patch and we made these changes and we brought you know, character power down, like player power down essentially. That in itself was also supposed to be paired with these Nightmare Dungeon changes that you know, where Joe was actually talking about earlier.
What the fuck are you? What the fuck are you talking? What this guy just said just pissed me off to no extent. What the fuck is he talking about? So he's telling me, okay, I will explain basically what he said. He said that these changes that we got in patch 1.1, all of these nerfs were supposed to pair with the things that this guy was talking about that are coming in the future, which is like the nerfs to Nightmare Dungeons, because like Nightmare Dungeons are too fucking hard. And he said like a Nightmare 70, like Nightmare Dungeon tier 70 is supposed to be as hard as Nightmare tier 100 is right now. Wait, okay, sorry, I said that in the opposite way. A Nightmare tier 100 is supposed to be hard as a Nightmare tier 70. So like what they're basically saying, like they wanted to make all of the Nightmare Dungeons a lot easier, which is a good thing, because they're too fucking hard. And it should have come out at the same time as this patch. Now what pisses me off to no extent is, why didn't you do it? Why the fuck did you not do that then? Like, did you run out of time? Okay, well, if you ran out of time, then why the fuck did you only give us the nerfs? Like, if you only gave us the, you know, like the Nightmare Dungeons being easier, everyone would be happy. Everyone would be like, okay, that's cool. And they could even say like, but we're going to nerf our characters later on a little bit, and nobody will complain. Maybe some people would, but like most people wouldn't give a shit. But like they instead decided to just give us the nerfs without the actual like nerfs to the Nightmare Dungeons, which are technically like buffs for players. Which fucking idiot in Blizzard? Name the fucking complete fucking moron. I guess it was Rod, because Rod isn't here. I guess they fired him on the spot. Like, which fucking idiot decided to just do this? Like, did not a single person in their team like think like, maybe people won't be happy if we just completely nerf the shit out of them without explaining why. Like, they, by the way, they didn't ever mention this. Like, the first time they mentioned this was now. The fact that Nightmare Dungeons were supposed to get nerfed. They have Twitter. These devs are very active on Twitter, which is, by the way, very good thing. Okay, I appreciate that they're active on Twitter. Not a single one of them even mentioned anything like this. They could have just said it in a tweet. They could have put it in the patch notes, saying like, hey, we are nerfing you, but we will nerf the Nightmare Dungeons later. Which still would piss people off, but at least we would have a reason why this happened. But no, they just didn't tell us. And they're telling us now. And still, I cannot understand the reasoning behind this. Like, why would you give us the nerfs but not the actual buffs? Like, why would you split it? Like, even if you run out of time, you should just like not nerf anything. They shouldn't. The patch shouldn't have existed. Period. Like, that's it. They shouldn't have done the patch at all. Like, what the fuck? He stole all food and breast milk on his way out. Like, I don't fucking understand. Like, I refuse to believe that this was the dev's fault. Okay? I refuse to believe that a dev was at fault here. Like, I am 100% confident that there is some guy above who's making the decisions, who's like, okay, the season 1 isn't ready yet. And he's like, okay, how much is ready? And they tell him, we just made the nerfs, but we haven't like nerfed the Nightmare Dungeon. And he's like, okay, that's fine, sure, just push it out. And people are like, but people are gonna be really mad about that. And he's like, no, who cares? We need to release season 1 right now. And they just like, okay, sure. Like, I refuse to believe anything other happened. Like, there is no way, Copium, there is no way that these devs are so fucking stupid that they didn't see this happening. Like, it's like, there's no way. They had to have known that just giving players the nerfs without the buffs wouldn't be just like an insane decision. Like, there has to be like some guy who's like managing the finances, you know, and he like his job is just like releasing the season on time, and he just like didn't give a shit about the fact that it wasn't finished yet. Like, I like somebody who was like literally completely clueless about what's happening. Like, this was a decision made by some complete fucking moron that I actually hope gets immediately fired. Like, that person should be immediately fired. Whoever decided that this patch should have come out in this way is a complete dumbass. Like, just straight up. I don't know who did it. If it was him, or like some fucking entity that's just like looming above them, fucking Rod behind the camera, eating his cookies or some shit. Or if, like, I can tell you, Bobby Kotick didn't do anything about this. Like, he couldn't care less. I doubt. Maybe, actually, maybe he would do this. Because, like, he could be the person who just, like, says, like, okay, you have to release it. You don't get any more time. I mean, who knows? I don't know whose idea this was, but it was, like, the dumbest fucking idea I've ever heard. Because, like, he literally said that this patch was basically broken in 2 parts, and they just released the bad part without the good part. Which is, like stupid as fuck. And he stole. Wait, there is no way Blizzard is so stupid, clueless. Yeah, sure. It's like, I don't get it. Oh my god.
And you know, it's something that we've learned throughout this process, is as you guys were talking about, that, you know, we have ultimate visions for something that is further down the line, and doing that all together at once during those moments, as opposed to doing them over time and whatnot, just leads to a better experience overall for players. And that's something that we most definitely will be doing as we build out.
You know, like, the way he's saying it makes me believe what I just said even more. That I feel like there was actually like some dude who has no idea what's going on, but he is like the guy who says whether it gets released or not, but he just like doesn't know what's happening. and he just like was like, okay, you have to release it, and he didn't give them a second choice. And I like the way he said it made it sound like these devs were basically like, you know what, fuck you, dude, we are going to release it, watch the game die. And now they're basically like proving themselves right. Like, you see, we told you that it would fuck up the entire game. Now, next time, you're just gonna give us time. It literally just like sounded like he was basically saying, okay, there will be no next time, because it's like next time the guy probably got fired for releasing the game in this manner and just like fucking Blizzard up completely. So like they don't have to worry about him. Like it sounded like that, okay? Like I'm probably like reading way too much in between the lines. Shit like this probably didn't actually happen, but like who knows? Maybe I'm completely on point. I just refuse to believe that these devs did this for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm on their side so much, but like these guys don't feel stupid, okay? Like they actually like everything they're saying is something that players want to hear right now. And I've seen them talk on Twitter and they seem like fucking relatable, all right? I do not believe that they would do some shit like this for no reason. It's okay, the Asian can read, so you're reading for him too. God fucking damn it.
Future updates and patches and so forth. Of course, a key component to this is how we communicate to players, and there is been a lot of feedback in regards to like, hey, it would have been great if we knew some of these changes were coming down the pipe, and it's a hefty amount of patch notes. We could have digested this like over a few days beforehand or a week beforehand. So one thing we do want to commit to right now is that we do plan on going forward always providing patch notes and communicating these patch notes through streams like this, through campfire chats or developer update live streams beforehand, well beforehand, like at least a week before the actual update hits, in no matter state, because I know sometimes we're still like trying to like maybe potentially squeeze in a few different things into patch notes and stuff like that up until like the last second, just on the nature of production of how we are. But I will say we do plan on sharing those no matter what to the community going forward, and from here on out through a stream or written through blog or something like that beforehand, well beforehand, before players can actually get into game and actually try it out on their end. So at least we can hear feedback and you guys can actually digest the information beforehand. In fact, we do actually have, of course, future updates here that we do want to talk about here really quickly. But one thing that we will commit to right now is that next Friday, so exactly 1 week from now, we'll be back on a live stream because we will start with that.
Okay, what? Next Friday there is... Okay, we have a date. So next Friday there will be a live stream. What else?
That live stream where we will be talking about our next patch that will be coming to Diablo 4. We'll talk a little bit about some of the details here, but we'll go into more detail next Friday specifically. But we will be back on here to kind of go through the whole entire patch notes with everyone beforehand, so everyone has a better expectation of what they're going to be seeing in the actual update, and they can talk to us through chat, through devs, or through social media, through Reddit, through.
Okay. Time to theorize. Okay, he didn't give us an actual date of when the patch is coming, but based on what he said, we can guess two things. Okay, the announcement of the patch is coming in a week, so on Friday 28th. Okay, announcement of an announcement, yes. And he literally just said that they want to have the announcement at least like before the patch, okay? And he gave us like a week basically of that should be like the the good timeline, like they want to make the announcement at like a week before the patch comes out. So based on that, the patch is most likely coming in 2 weeks, which would be like the Friday of the 4th of August, or maybe like few days earlier, maybe a few days later. It might be like, but it's definitely going to take at least a week, but it shouldn't really take more than 2 weeks. I feel like that's like good enough. I think like, I mean, it depends on how big the patch is. Like, if they're gonna fix all of the issues in that patch, like, okay, that's a good enough time frame. If they're gonna fix like 2 bugs and then just talk for the rest of the stream about like their next patch, then I'm gonna be mad again. Like, if they fix all of the issues in the next patch and it comes within 2 weeks, I would say that's good enough. I would say that's just that's completely fair. Okay, like this entire shenanigans shouldn't have happened. Okay, like let's get that out of the way. Like none of this should have happened in the first place. Like the patch shouldn't have been this fucked up in the first place. But I'm willing to give people a second chance. I guess it feels like a third chance, maybe a fourth chance at this point. You'll just say 3 strikes and you're out. Okay? I guess they will be out like 6 times at this point. But 5th chance or more. Oh my fucking god. But like, okay, let's continue. I'm already 20 minutes behind. Why do I talk so much?
Before the actual patch hits. So we will get times and remind everyone, of course, throughout the week that we will have another campfire chat to talk about patch 111, since we just shipped 110, 111. But we do want to talk a little bit about
What do you mean 110? Like the latest patch that came out was called like 110B. I don't even know what the latest patch is. Like, I'm pretty sure I saw that. Yeah, the Diablo patch 1.1.0B. That was the latest one, not 1.1.0. I guess I know what he means. All right, we record a stream. Because they don't count hotfixes as patches, yeah, who cares?
111.
I'm just nitpicking
today,
at this
because
point.
There are some items that we are aware of that we know will be of interest to players, specifically when it comes to
I have my final
things that they've been asking for, and at least it gives you guys a little bit of an early preview of some stuff that's coming down the road. I think one big thing that everyone has been kind of talking about as of late from this current patch is like some of the sorcerer and barbarian items and stuff like that, and how we've obviously tuned a lot of classes down, and there's questions of like, hey, is there any changes in the future for those two?
You know what? I'll be the Rod Ferguson of this stream. Right, you've probably eaten a fried egg before, right? Like an egg on the sunny side up. I think you know what I mean when I say that, right? I don't know about you, but I always leave the yolk as the last part. I like cut around the yolk with my knife, and I eat all of the like the white part of the egg, whatever it's called. And then when there's just like this yolk left, I just fucking eat it in one bite. Yum. It's always so good. Yeah. Anyway, Earl Ferguson out.
Yeah, we're taking a long look at a lot of the sorceress and barbarian aspects that aren't being like utilized very well right now, and trying to lift a lot of those back up. So there's going to be a wide range of like legendary power and unique item improvements for these two classes in particular. Taking a look at a lot of things, but we're really honing in specifically on sorceress first, and then also getting a lot of barbarian updates in there at the same time. And this is for 1.1.1. Correct. So the very next patch and cycle.
Yeah, and we expect that patch. Obviously, if we're having a live stream now, next Friday, we expect that patch here in the next like couple weeks or so. So at least you guys can get a
wait, what?
In particular, taking a look at a lot of things, but we're really honing in specifically on sorceress first, and then also getting a lot of barbarian updates in there at the same time. And this is for 1.1.1. Correct. So the very next patch and cycle.
Yeah, and we expect that patch. Obviously, if we're having a live stream now, next Friday, we expect that patch here in the next like couple of weeks or so. So at least you guys can get an early preview on it.
Yeah.
He said next couple of weeks. So like, is it gonna be more than 2 weeks? I hope not.
And on that Friday, we'll be talking a lot about like, the specifics of all of those changes and kind of hearing what the community says.
Yep. In fact, the Nightmare Dungeon items that we were just talking about just now, that's actually, we're planning on actually rolling that out in a hotfix specifically. And that is something that we actually plan on...
Wait, what did he just fucking say?
In fact, the Nightmare Dungeon items that we were just talking about just now, that's actually, we're planning on actually rolling that out in a hotfix specifically. And that is something that we actually plan on rolling out later today. So we'll have more information on the Nightmare Dungeon changes that will be, that we talked about earlier, that will be coming out later today via hotfix.
Wait, okay. Bitch, you should have started with that. Like you should have said that like fucking 50 minutes ago. Okay? Later today, hotfix. Yeah, they're... Like, the fucking thing they were talking about, like the Nightmare Dungeon changes, like making Nightmare Dungeons easier. Not new items. I think he just, like, misspoke. Like, basically, they're gonna make Nightmare Dungeons easier later today in a hotfix. They should have just started with that. Everyone would immediately be like, okay, that's fine. Why did it take you 50 minutes to say that shit? God fucking damn it. At least... Okay, that's what he said. Okay? I don't like the Blizzard devs are known for being extremely misleading because and confusing based on what they are saying. So like who knows, maybe he meant something completely different, but like based on the way he said it, it's like 99% chance that it's what I just said, all right?
fix. Another big thing that we've talked about in patch notes because we've toned it down and now we're kind of and we had mentioned that to players that we did plan on bringing it back up. It is monster density in Nightmare Dungeons and Helltide. So I know that you guys had some plans and so forth to raise.
Monster density in Helltide sounds actually fucking amazing because like they increase the amount of cinders that you need to open the the super chest, right? From 175 to 250. So increasing the density of monsters in Helltides would actually be great because you would be able to farm the Lords of Cinder faster, okay? That would be amazing. When is that coming out?
Related to that.
Yeah, so I mean, going back to the mission statement I mentioned earlier, a key part of the live game is having high density areas for players to mow down, right?
Yes.
And
Key part of RPGs, right?
of which Diablo 4 is one.
That's true.
Pardon my grammar. And so we're going to be increasing the density in Nightmare Dungeons substantially, and we're going to be increasing the density in Helltide as well. Now,
oh my god, why didn't you say this in the patch notes? Like, Jesus Christ, people would be like completely mellowed out. Like people would be like completely fine with all of this if you just said all of these good things in the patch notes. Like you could have just like at least like hinted at them. Like anything. Like why did you like Jesus Christ? And you're saying that they're going to come out like later today? Okay, maybe not the high density. Okay, that might be later. But at least today they fixed the fucking Nightmare Dungeons, which is like, that's the main issue. Because as I said, I was playing Season 1 as Druid, I'm level 32, and I had literally 0 issues fighting enemies. I actually feel stronger than I was in pre-season for some reason. Maybe that's just because I'm a Druid. Okay, so like the only thing that I'm worried about is late game being like too fucking hard, and they literally just said that they're making it easier. So like I have nothing to worry about, which like fixed the entire fucking season just like that. Why didn't they say this like in the patch notes? Like Jesus Christ. Oh my fucking god, like this feels like an actual April Fool's joke. They were like, oh yeah, we're nerfing you all. April Fools, we're actually nerfing the game too. Lamal, get shit on, you stupid fucks. It actually feels like they were fucking shitting on us or something.
with the Nightmare Dungeon changes across the board for Nightmare Dungeons, all Nightmare Dungeons will get more dense. The Helltide change, there are certain areas of Helltide that are extremely dense, right? Like the Tar Pits, for example, is very dense. Areas like that probably won't get more dense. And part of what we've been doing here at the same time in terms of these density changes is making sure that we're making performance improvements, like looking at player skills that are taking a lot of time on the servers, getting those into better performance so players have better frame rates and stuff, and fewer stalls and all these kinds of things that make the game more fun to play. And this also helps us increase the number of like more monsters, more players, more stuff going on. And we know that the density in Nightmare Dungeons in particular needs to go up, and so we've been working on that to make sure that we can accomplish that. So density in Helltide will go up, not uniformly. Density in Nightmare Dungeons will go up uniformly.
You know, like one thing that I want to hear them say is like making enemies stun players less than they already do. Like they said it was an issue. I just hope that they do something about the insane stun lock potential that the enemies have. Like if they say something about that, I'll just be like, okay, you know what, all is forgiven. Like, well, that's all I want to hear. Just like that's like my only real issue with the game. Like everything else in the game I literally couldn't care less about. Like I have 0 issues with the game that are like substantial enough for me to care about, other than the fact that enemies just constantly fucking stun you. It's just so goddamn annoying. Like anytime I find myself without an unstoppable ability, and I'm just like afraid for my life. Especially because I'm playing hardcore. It's just like, please do something about the insane CC potential.
and these will be substantial increases.
Yep. Which I know players have been talking about constantly, wanting additional density on this.
Right, rightly so.
And a big topic right now is
I like that he added the rightly so at the end. So like, like they're not just like talking about all the players want something that is stupid. No, he like actually agrees with it. Okay, like I like that he added that on top of that. It's not like saying, because like they did it in the past, like Blizzard, not like these guys specifically, but like Blizzard in general, where they're like, oh, players don't know what they want. Players don't know what they want. Like you want classic, you think you do, but you don't. And then fucking classic turns out to be like one of the most played thing that Blizzard has ever made, And they're always like extremely like condescending to the players, but this time this guy at least like feels like he's not being condescending. Like, okay, obviously he could be lying, like I don't fucking know, okay, I can't see inside of his head, but at least he makes himself look like he agrees with the player base, at least this time. Okay, I can't speak about the future. Okay, so like, what do you mean you can't see inside? You see the bald spot? Yeah, I meant further, okay?
There's inventory concerns we've heard from players. I know we've talked about gems and so forth actually becoming materials in Season 2, which to help out with some inventory concerns specifically. I know you guys have information, at least in regards to stash.
I don't know why, but realizing that this guy is balding, and like quite a lot, made me like him more. I guess it's like relatability. Because like usually that means that you're under like heavy stress when you start balding, but like obviously it's also something that just comes with age. So like I don't know why, it just made me like him a little bit more than I did previously.
And what might be coming in 1.1.1.
So yes, so certainly the gem change is still coming in Season 2, like you said, but we need more stash help now, right? And so in 1.1.1, we're going to be adding an additional stash tab for players so they can store more aspects, more Malignant Hearts.
Yeah, this has been like an...
So in the next patch, 1.1.1, I guess that's not the hotfix, but that's the one that's coming in like 2 weeks or something. They're actually adding more stash tabs. Thank you, okay? Like, thank you very much. That's actually amazing. Now work on the gem tab and we'll be good, alright? Season 2 and the game might actually be no, not playable. It might actually be like without issues. OPM as fuck, but like sure. Like I feel like I literally think that if you give a shit about Diablo in any kind of way, you should just like wait until Season 2. Because like it actually seems like Season 2, okay, and this is like just a huge fucking copium, okay? You don't even have to say it. It actually feels like Season 2 might be just like without any real big issues, okay? It's like there should be like the gem tab, the inventory will be bigger because the fucking stash tabs are like there's more of them and that kind of shit. I'm just saying, if there is a patch that might be good, then it's gonna be Season 2, which is like in 3 months, which technically isn't even that long. They'll introduce new issues, yeah. Like that's basically what I'm afraid of, okay? Like because we just saw them very capable of introducing new issues where we thought it was impossible, but like fucking patch 1.1.0 fucking proved everyone wrong. They're like, oh, you think we can't fuck this shit up? Well, watch me, buddy.
An ongoing conversation every week inside the dev team of like, do we feel that we're ready to do this yet? Do we feel that we're ready to do this yet? Like the density conversation, the stash tab conversation, like the the engineering team's been working really, really hard to be able to like make these adjustments possible for us. Like there's more that we're doing. This is now a never-ending conversation of like what else can we do? What else can we be doing to try to improve the experience? But like we've definitely heard these two concerns. I'm just really happy to bring them in as early as 1.1.1.
Yeah. Oh, and I should mention that along with the stash tab, we're making a small change to Elixir stack size. We're going to bring that up to 99. So that'll help a little bit.
Awesome.
Elixir stacks being 99, that's fine. I guess like it doesn't really help that much. Like usually you don't get that many elixirs, so like you would need to actually stack them up even further, but like I guess in the cases where you do, then it kind of helps, okay? Like who cares? It might say like this might save you like 1 or 2 spots in your elixir tab, like who cares? it's better than nothing, okay?
Obviously, like with new starts to seasons, and if we do have these types of changes that occur within the patch that may change, whether it's the meta or the balance of specific things, there's been questions related to respecs and how that has been pretty expensive on people's like their own personal economies with gold and so forth. I know we have respec changes that are also coming with the game itself. You guys probably know more specifics on the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, this really goes back. Joe was talking about our commitment to choice earlier, and it also, but I think it also goes back to, when we say in the mission statement we want to have a wide variety of viable builds. Great, but if you can't switch between those builds, then it still feels punishing, right? So we're going to bring respec costs down by about 40%, quite a bit.
Cool. Yeah, so it should help out with people that want to switch over to a different build and so forth, or they do have to adjust over to another build. They get the option of actually being able to do so, or have an easier option of being able to do so.
And that'll be in 1.1.1.
And that'll be in 1.1.1 as well. So, and then I know lastly, like one big thing is, as players kind of progress through the game and the leveling curve kind of goes through, especially like post like 70 or so, we've been looking at the player journey and how they've been getting up to 100. I know there's some changes that you guys are looking at in terms of like experience and so forth in that end.
Yeah, I mean, the short version is we want to make leveling from 50 to 100 faster by adjusting XP. I don't know if you have.
Yeah, I realized when I was realizing when I was talking earlier about the change we made. Obviously, we also made the change to the XP gain when fighting creatures above your level. And I failed to mention this discussing it.
Yeah.
So the original intent for that was we found players basically sitting at like fighting creatures like 3 levels above them and never felt like they were really challenging themselves beyond that. We wanted to stretch that out a bit further, but that went from a 25% bonus to a 15% bonus. And we knew that density changes were coming online, so we thought about this a little bit. But I read a lot of feedback like afterwards in particular that just made it sound like people thought we were just trying to make the game take longer, which wasn't actually the goal, but realized that the 25% to 15% change did constitute a nerf as a result of that. It's the thing that we're thinking about as well.
We are not trying to slow down the game.
No, and to that point, like we had a vision for how long we want the game to take for players. We realized it's.
I'll be honest, I am completely on their side with this one. Like, I think the player base actually overreacted completely with the XP nerfs, quotation marks. Like, I've read the entire patch notes and I had not seen a single nerf to XP. Like, I literally have no idea what people were actually talking about. Like, everyone just like said like, oh, leveling is like 90% slower now or some bullshit like that. I'm like, where did that come from? Because the patch notes didn't say anything about that. Like, the things they did was they nerfed people boosting each other, which is like, I think that's actually a good choice, because like, why the fuck, like, who actually enjoys getting boosted? Like, the only reason you would get boosted is if like you don't want to level. It's like, okay, then just don't fucking play the game, buddy. Like, leveling is part of the game. And the other thing that they nerfed was like, before you would get 25% bonus XP if you were fighting enemies who were 3 levels above you. And then like anything above that would give you just like still only 25% and nothing more. What they changed it to was like, you get 1.5% more XP for each enemy level above you up until like level like 10 above you. So like if an enemy was 10 levels above you, you would be getting 15%. So like, yes, that is technically a nerf. Okay, so like before, if you were fighting enemies at 3 levels above you, you were getting a 25% XP bonus. Now it was a 4.5% XP bonus. I can 100% guarantee you this 20% nerf means nothing. It's just like, it didn't make leveling like actually 20% slower. No, that's like, people just don't know how fucking numbers work. Like, it meant like pretty much nothing. Like, a normal player wouldn't be affected by this, like, at all. Like, an actual speedrunner, sure, but normal people, no. Like, just straight up no. Like, it's like, if you're playing the game in a normal way, this nerf didn't really affect you at all. Like, it's still like way better than what the game was before they introduced the like XP buffs. Maybe they mean that because you're weaker and can't kill monsters as fast, you level slower, like the builders. Like, okay, that is like a good point. Okay, like if they meant it like that, then okay, sure. Because like they did technically nerf our damage by, I guess, a lot. But to be honest, I'm still not sure how much the a lot actually means. Because like the numbers are just like all over the place. Because like they nerfed like a billion different things at the same time, so it's like you can't really tell how much your build suffered. But people definitely reported on the fact that they felt weaker, but that isn't going to matter anymore because they're nerfing nightmare dungeons. Like, and by that I mean like they're making nightmare dungeons easier. I don't want to say nerf because every time you say nerf, it feels like something bad is happening to you. But like no, they're nerfing the dungeons, which makes us technically stronger. So I feel like they just fixed that issue, and it's gonna happen later today. That's what they said. And by later today, they're talking about American times, okay? So it might come in like 10 hours. Like for us Europeans, later today would mean in like 3 hours. I can guarantee you it's not gonna happen in 3 hours. It's gonna happen in like 6, 7, 8 hours. So basically like maybe like 5 a.m. for us. 4, 3, 3, 4, 5 a.m. That kind of deal. Like don't expect any sooner than that, alright? But yeah, like the XP changes, like I swear to God, people extremely overreacted. Like extremely. Like they might have affected speedrunners a lot, but most people are not speedrunners. Just like straight up. Anyway, let's continue listening to them. But like that's the only thing that I'm willing to defend them on. Like everything else was just like shit changes, okay? Like they still majorly fucked up, and people are completely right to be mad. Okay, it's just let me say that much, okay?
Taking a little bit longer than that than what our vision was originally for a lot of folks who are leveling up, particularly when they get to certain parts of the game, like when they're World Series 3 and 4.
Yeah.
So we are looking to like really to readjust the XP rates for those areas, because we aren't looking to like have you hit this absolute brick wall when you hit like level 70 or something, right? Like there's not like these moments where you're going to feel like you just can't, or 75. Like we don't want you to have this feeling that you just can't make meaningful progress that was artificially holding you back. It's never been the vision or the goal, right? Just it ended up working out that it wasn't the players weren't earning XP at the rate that we had originally expected is what it really came down to. So these are like we are making changes in this regard to kind of bring this down a bit. Yeah.
And I mean, you've seen certainly we did things like increase the XP bonus for Nightmare Dungeons a while back quite substantially.
Yeah, and
Yes.
for completion held type
Right.
chests.
Now, notwithstanding that, there are changes to XP related to addressing the power leveling case, because we don't have like group up, have fun with your friends, like power leveling each other. The only case that we think is not very fun is the case where one person is standing at the entrance to the dungeon and the other person is having all the fun killing.
Yeah, like I completely support this. Like this shouldn't be in the game. Like one person just standing in the dungeon and getting boosted from level 1 to level 50 in like 2 hours, that is trash gameplay. It shouldn't exist. Like the only reason I tolerated it in Diablo 3, because like that's the way you level up to 70 in Diablo 3, is because like I mean, let's be honest, the leveling experience in Diablo 3 was complete fucking garbage. Like absolute fucking trash. In Diablo 4, I feel like you do so many different activities. It doesn't even feel bad to level. At least not now, okay? Maybe in like 6 seasons I will have like a completely different opinion. But like right now, boosting shouldn't be in the game. Period. Like I would even fucking ban people for boosting. Okay, maybe I wouldn't ban them, but I would tell them like don't do it, and then I will fucking ban them for doing it. Because like I do not believe that it should be even allowed. Like boosting is just completely trash, and it shouldn't be a part of any game until it becomes like the only good way to play it, okay? Like in Diablo 3. Vanilla Diablo 3, you just ran the same dungeon over and fucking over again till you were max. Yeah, that's exactly. Like in Diablo 3, it's understandable. Like I would be completely fine if Blizzard just made us get level 70 instantly every time a season started on Diablo 3. But in Diablo 4, I think there's no excuse for it. Like I'm actually really glad they changed boosting the way they did, which basically in the last patch they literally killed boosting. Like there is like I mean okay, you can it's still definitely faster to get boosted by someone, but it's not as fast as it was before. Like before you could literally hit level 50 in like 4 hours by getting boosted. Like that's like 10 times faster than what you normally do. So like okay, maybe like 5 times faster actually. But still, I support this change completely. 100%.
Yeah.
And so, when we look at the balance of the XP changes in 1.1.0, we think that additional changes need to be made to to make the game faster, especially
Yeah,
between 50 and 100.
yeah, we want level 100 to feel like an achievement, but not like a job, right? So like we want to make some adjustments, make sure that it feels fun, very achievable, obviously within the season timeline. But yeah, so we are going to make some adjustments. We talked about, I think, talk about more probably next week.
Yeah.
In terms of more specifics.
Yeah, some version.
So
Okay, so next week they're gonna be talking about like buffing the XP again, which is good, I think, because like I think the game is still a little too slow. I mean the buffs, the previous buffs that they had, like they make it like basically twice as fast to level up from 50 to 100. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about 1 to 50 because they only like buffed nightmare dungeons and you only get to them in world tier 3. But like, yeah, I think it could be a little faster because like you're expecting people to hit level 100 in a season, which is 3 months. And as we know, the game is supposed to be based around casuals. How the fuck is a casual supposed to hit level 100? Even with the buffs. Like, literally no way. Like, impossible. A casual barely finishes the fucking campaign. How are they supposed to get to level 100? Like, yeah, like, I think some buffs to XP are still kind of needed a little bit. Like, I personally don't need them, but a casual audience definitely does.
So again, we'll be back on stream next Friday to talk about all the details of the changes, including the Barb and like sorcerer changes that Joe had mentioned.
Oh yeah, and there will be buffing Barb and Sork, which is
Along
great.
with other changes that we are preparing right now for the patch itself. That patch itself is supposed to be hitting in the next couple weeks. Obviously, if we're doing the stream on Friday, it means it's coming pretty darn soon for after that stream. So, but we did want to make sure that we got in front of players to actually talk to them about everything, and we plan on doing that going forward. If we ever have one of these larger patches that actually make some pretty significant changes within the game, we'll either get in front of you guys via stream, or we'll end up posting about them earlier so that you guys get a better idea of what's to come for those. I know that we do want to take a bunch of questions actually from chat and so forth. I know one big question that has always kind of come up has been about leaderboards and so forth within, and the expectation of when those might be coming in. I know that ideally
Nobody cares about leaderboards, okay? There's like dozens of people who care about leaderboards. Who actually gives a shit about this? Like, nobody. Okay, let's be honest.
we're aiming for season 3 for the leaderboards in it.
This is like literally the last possible issue that Diablo 4 has. Like this is like a nice thing to have on top of everything, but like nobody actually cares about it right now.
So I don't know if you guys have any like additional information or like additional insight onto those from your end.
Yeah, so one thing that's really important to us for leaderboards in Diablo 4 is that we don't think that like tying this directly to Nightmare Dungeons or content type exactly like that is going to make a lot of sense because the variety of the nature of the system. So we want to make a content type that kind of partners directly with leaderboards, so you can be judging kind of like this kind of more even playing field when you're going through that experience. But that is content that we are actively in development on and are excited to try to get ready for season 3. So we're going to be making I'm sorry. The short answer to this is we'll be excited about competitive feature. We are making a specific content type that goes alongside that you're judging yourself against, and we're looking for season 3 for that.
Question from You Stupid Walrus is Uber Uniques. What's the future? They mathematically don't exist, so I don't think it's a good waste of.
Sorry, this guy's name was literally You Stupid Walrus. I don't know if that was on purpose or not. Like, okay, let me listen to the question again. Sorry.
Season 3 for that.
Question from You Stupid Walrus is Uber Unique.
I love how these guys aren't even fazed by it. They're like, okay.
What's the future? They mathematically don't exist, so I don't think it's a good waste of resources of them anymore.
Sorry, I was really distracted by the walrus.
Okay.
Can you read the question again?
Uber Uniques.
Oh, right.
What's the future? They mathematically don't exist, so I don't think it's good to waste resources on them in the future.
Yeah, it's a good question. So, Uber Uniques are designed in such a way that they are a huge spike of power, and we're receiving feedback, and we understand the feedback on some of them. But they represent a huge spike of power, and as such, are not expected to be part of builds necessarily. One of our goals underlying is we don't want players to feel that one of these are mandatory that you must find in an effort to bring your build online. From the ground up, we kind of made the decision to say it is okay if we want players to find these, but we don't want them to expect to find these. Which is a difficult place to balance in terms of drop rates when you're thinking about these. Now, right now, I believe that they are exceedingly rare, and we do want them to feel very, very rare. But I suspect that as we start moving into future seasons, we do want to find more ways for players, or more opportunities for players to get chances at these. And I imagine we will talk about.
My take on these extremely rare uniques, all right? You want to know where I want to see them in terms of like drop rates? In my opinion, their drop rate should be basically every 100 uniques that you find, you should find one of these mega rare uniques. that should be the drop rate. Anything higher than that is too much. And even this, what I said, is like a little too much, but based on what he just said, they want people to not actually plan a build around this unique. And I think if you only got one every 100 uniques, I feel like that would be like about, it would be basically at a point where you could get it if you farm a lot, and you could get lucky and get it without actually like winning a fucking lottery, okay? Like it would actually be like reasonable to expect to get one or two during a season, but still you wouldn't really plan your build around it. I think I would put it as that kind of number. Every 100 uniques, you get one super rare unique. And I'm not saying like it would be like literally every 100 uniques. I mean, it like the chance should be 1% of whatever the unique drop rate is. Like that would, I would do that for like the ultra rare uniques, like Harlequin Crest, Grandfather, that kind of shit. Because right now, I can tell you that percentage is not 1% of those uniques. It's like 1 millionth of a percent. It's like, it's just like several million times smaller or whatever. Like it's way fucking smaller than that.
That soon, but I would suggest that like the current drop rates are probably not going to be the drop rates forever. We'll probably make those a little bit more common, a little more likely to be found as time goes on.
So they're going to make them more common, but how much more common? Like based on what he, like the way he said it, me is basically saying like it's gonna still be a lottery, basically, but like a little less of a lottery. Like even if they made the drop rates 10 times higher, you would still never see one. Ever. Like they would still be way too fucking rare for you to ever see one. Statistically.
A big topic that I'm seeing just pop up in chat and so forth. A lot of comments about crowd control
Sure.
and if there's any plans or ways that we're looking at addressing crowd control here in the future.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier in the stream, or well, I think we both talked about it. We think that when you have high density of monsters on screen and you have a lot of elites, the crowd control, the tools that you have for crowd control are not, need to be better, basically. And some of that is going to be adjustments to things that feel unfair, and some of that is going to be tool adjustments in terms of your tools. I think that we'll be able to, you know, this is something that we'll be able to speak more to in terms of specifics and how we're going to address that, but we agree it's a problem in the future. Yeah.
Question from
Yeah, I'm not satisfied with that answer, but okay. At least they're planning to make it better. Once again, they didn't say it will be next week, okay? This time he didn't say anything about it being next Friday. So this is probably like a long-term issue that might be solved in like season 51. Okay, maybe a little sooner.
I'm so bad. IK Recoat. I tried. I'm so bad with names. I'm sorry. When will loadouts be added?
Good question.
Yeah, it's a feature that the UI team is very excited about and something we've talked about a bit internally. We don't have a timeline for the idea of loadouts just yet, but it is something that we're continuing to actively talk about. When we have more information to share in terms of like when something like this could potentially be added to Diablo 4, I'm sure that we'll talk about it.
Barago.
So it's not gonna be in 2 weeks, okay? So loadouts are not coming this season. I can already pretty much guarantee you that much. It's not coming out this season. But the way he said it makes it sound like they're actually like working on it actively. Which like I feel like you will be able to implement a loadout system in less than a week if you were actually like trying to put it in, you know? It doesn't seem like a hard thing to implement. Like really, like it's literally just like saving a preset and then loading it. I'll be honest, I can't actually tell you how hard it would be to implement into the game. Like I'm not sure about this one. Like with stash tabs and with gem tabs, I can tell you like you could implement that shit in an hour. Okay, you could implement it in a day, depending on how good of a programmer you are. But like Fucking loadouts, I don't know how long that would take, but I still don't think it's something that would take more than a week. Maybe 2 weeks, okay? Still.
Barag 0 says, what is the time frame on 111? It doesn't seem very clear. Is it before the middle of the season? How long do I need to wait for Sorcerer and Barbs to have their changes and be playable? It is much sooner than mid-season. As I said, it's only like a couple weeks away, and by a couple weeks, I mean like very, very soon. Like if we're
You piece of shit, just say a number.
doing a stream on Friday, I would expect it within a couple days after the stream.
We have to.
Wait, what? He literally just wait. He did give us a number. Okay, Giga Chat. He said within a couple days of the next stream. So it might not even be 2 weeks. It might actually be like a week and a half or something. Like because like the next stream is on Friday in a week, and he said it's like a couple of days. He didn't say couple of weeks. Okay, and like a couple of days, in my opinion, means less than a week. So like, I love the look on Joe Shelley's face when he just realized, oh fuck, he just said that we have to release it within a couple days of the next week's stream. Oh fuck, we don't have it ready. Oh no, everyone's gonna be disappointed again. No, he's like losing hairs just like thinking about it.
To provide some. If we say anything too specific today, production will choke us out. So we have to be very careful about the language we use.
Yeah, exactly. Right. He said that right after this guy basically gave us a release date.
Yes, very soon.
Only because with patches themselves, of course, you know, there are, we're on a lot of different platforms and everything, and of course those go through certification. If a certification gets pushed back or whatnot, then we obviously need to readjust schedules, so it's hard for us to actually put a specific time on it until that actually occurs.
Sure.
But very, very soon.
But very, very soon, okay? I like when they say very, very soon, because Blizzard soon TM has became a fucking trademark. But like very, very soon, that sounds like quite soon.
Bulb B79, are there any plans for some changes for experience between, say, level 75 to 100? This is actually something that we just commented on, but the journey feels a bit dull. There are several events, but only nightmare dungeons to provide challenge. World bosses, Helltides, and Whispers are a good idea, but just too easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so we talked about, so I guess there's two real parts of this, like, you know, so are we making changes to the XP progression for players while they're moving through, like World Tier 4 in this case? And the answer is yes, we are going to be looking at making changes to that, and we'll talk about more about that soon. Mm-hmm. And then secondly,
like watch them nerf the XP in World Tier 4, and I will just fucking jump out of my window. If they actually nerfed the XP for World Tier 4, I don't know what I would do at that point. I would literally perish on this chair right here. Like, you wouldn't see another stream. That's about it. It would just be over.
Do we feel that there are the right number of like milestones for players to engage with, enough goals to kind of like consume while you're also just leveling up, enough content to kind of do as you're leveling up in these world tiers? And I think that there's,
of course not.
The answer is no. That we know that there's more things that we need to add to the game, particularly for World Tier 4. But really, just once you get into World Tier 3 and 4, just find more opportunities and more content and new things for players to do as they're leveling up through those spaces. And we do have plans for those things, and we do have thoughts on stuff we want to add in Season 2 in particular, and some things we're looking to continue to talk about moving forward. Yeah. But yeah, we recognize that there's more we would like to add to that journey to kind of create more variety and more moments of challenge as well while you're progressing, not just at 100, but all along the way.
Hodoc24 says, what are your plans to adjust loot drops? This I'm going to add on to his question after I read it. It feels very frustrating to grind for days without ever seeing anything close to an upgrade or finding the right aspect. Even worse, when you finally do it and it's a terrible roll. Slightly, I'm also going to modify that and mention target farming, which has also been a topic within the community. I'm not sure if you guys want to have any plans and so forth for that.
So I think there's a couple parts of this as well, right? There's the idea of I grind for a long time to get an item, and the item is not an upgrade. And particularly, again, when you're in World Tiers 3 and 4, where you start dealing with sacred items and ancestral items, where you're kind of dealing with this larger bucket of eye power range, this can certainly tend to be true, unless you're looking for specific kinds of affixes, you're looking for particular kinds of roles, right? So there's a couple things. One, we know we want to try to reduce the difficulty of like kind of comparing and looking at a number of different items all at once and trying to get a better sense of that. These are things the UI team is very passionate about, and conversations are ongoing in terms of how we want to achieve that. like things like loot filters, object things like that.
Whoa, loot filters. Okay. Hold up. That could be decent.
There's the idea of like how does the progression of itemization feel, particularly in World Tier 4, while you're leveling up there. And the systems team has ideas on things they would like to include. It's too early for us to say exactly to like really like lay them all out just now. But there are ideas and things we want to do to kind of improve the feeling of progression through the ancestral tier, so you feel like there's more thresholds and there's more opportunities to kind of get upgrades as you go. And then lastly, there's this idea of target farming. So legendary aspects are a place I think that we can afford to do more. We know that players are looking for certain aspects. They're trying to find certain things. They're trying to find particularly unique items. I think is often the case, right? They want their Tempest Roar, whatever it is they're looking for. They're looking for that thing. We do have plans in Season 2 right now to have more content you can try to target farm in order to find certain unique items. And I think there's a natural extension of that to figure out like what's the right way for players to be able to find an easier method of getting into some of the aspects they might be looking for as they're progressing through. So that is something that the rewards and systems teams will be thinking about and hopefully we'll talk about soon on stream.
Yeah, and I do want to note, like, I know we have an update here coming for 1.1.1, which we just talked about is in the next couple weeks. There are going to be other patches before Season 2 and so forth with additional changes and items that we just haven't.
Like, one thing that he said was kind of interesting to me. Like, he keeps talking about like these different teams in Blizzard. Like, okay, like the stream already ended, just so we're clear, like fucking 20 minutes ago. But what he said was like kind of interesting to me. He said he was talking about like UI team and then system and rewards team. So like there are like different types of teams there that are like working on specific, like very specific things. So like it feels to me like these teams are kind of like disconnected from each other. I guess like that's kind of obvious, isn't it? I guess that's like how it works at every AAA company. But yeah, I guess like that just gave a little bit of insight on how it actually works there. Like who actually cares?
Noted, and I just want to clarify specifically on that. We do have more patches beyond 1.1.1 before Season 2 to address a lot of feedback that we're receiving from players and a lot of opportunities for us to actually do so. Can we get some sort of matchmaking system to help with partying up with random people or group finders? I know we had talked about group finders before. I know this is something that the team has obviously received feedback about, like helping out with like the social systems and so forth within the game. It is being evaluated, I know, and the teams are looking at it. We just don't have an exact timeline of when those are actually coming in specifically from that end. Are there going to be changes with arm? Oh, sorry, I forgot. That was Andy for Man was the last question. BeanPot10 says, are there going to be changes with armor regarding survivability? Hardcore is almost unplayable on Sorcerer with one-shots from corpse bows and low innate due to low innate armor.
Yeah, I think survivability, especially on Sorcerer, is something that the changes that Joe was talking about for that we'll be talking about in more detail next week is one of the things we want to include in that. We recognize that.
Yeah, we also identified there are a few outstanding monster types and abilities that are doing they're killing players a little more frequently than we expect, and like we're looking at like creatures that explode when they die, for example, claim an awful lot of lives, right? Creatures that can chill, claim an awful lot of lives.
Okay.
Or charging creatures, we've also learned.
And charging creatures, yeah.
I've seen a lot of reports about that, and I know, and you're about to say.
Which I think have been nerfed like twice now. Too,
well, there's a bug fix on the Beast Charge in particular, where Beast Charge could deal damage even if you interrupted the charge or the beast died.
Oh, I see. So, well, that's a good bug fix. So, I mean, we're identifying some of these like really difficult affixes, really difficult nightmare dungeon affixes, or like really ones that claim lots, like a disproportionate amount of player lives as part of that. And we're looking at those all at once. It's source for survivability is absolutely an issue, and we're going to be talking about it more in the 1.1.1 conversation.
Imagine they're like, okay, so we saw that you were dying a lot to getting frozen. We saw that you were dying a lot to charging monsters and to on-death effects, and you were disproportionately dying to them more than everything else. So we have decided to buff every other monster that we didn't mention so they can kill you just as fast as these guys. Alright? Look forward to it in patch 1.1.1.1.1. Let's go. Coming next week and a couple of days and a couple of weeks and a couple of days after that. Next season tomorrow. Yesterday. See you next week.
Session next week. But there's also this idea of like there's a lot of things out there that are just doing a lot of like what feels to the player in the moment pretty cheap, like unfair, like just I sort of just died, don't really see what happened. So we're looking at more of these situations and trying to figure out the right places to make adjustments. We don't want the game to be easy. You know, we don't want you to be able to walk through every encounter, and we want the game to feel deadly at times. We want you to feel like you have an opportunity to kind of evade or deal with this.
Like this is not even about the game being easy or deadly. It's just about the game being unfair. Like straight up. Like there's no other way to say this. Like if you mess up once, you know, like there's like fucking hundreds of enemies fighting you during a dungeon, okay? And you misstep one single time and you get frozen, you are dead. If you don't have an unstoppability, you are just dead. And I'm talking about like high tier content. I'm not talking about like fucking while leveling, okay? While leveling, I can survive even when I get frozen without unstoppability. But like in later tier content, like fucking Nightmare Dungeon 100, you are just gone. It's just like, it's just over. Getting frozen is death. Getting hit by an on-death explosion equals dead. Like, you stand even at like the tip of the edge of the explosion, you're gone. It deals more damage than fucking Lilith. It's like you perish, you are removed from existence. Okay? And like the fucking charging monsters, they're just like standing in one place, you know, they're completely stationary. So like you're not paying attention to them because there's like 50 other monsters that you have to pay attention, and suddenly there's this charging monster that just like fucking runs at you immediately, just like fucking Mach 10 speed, like his brain is turning into a mush. That's just how fast he's running, and he fucking rams into your ass, all right? And you're just boop, you're just fucking dead, you're just gone. And what is your reaction time? Like, what is like the time that you have to react to that? Less than a second, less than half a second. Because like, you're not noticing him when he's charging, okay? I mean, you could, but how are you supposed to keep track of like 50 different enemies at the same time? You know? So the issue is that these effects are fucking unfair. Getting one-shot by anything is not fair. It never was, it never will be. Getting one-shot is just a shit. It's basically just a failure of the balance team, okay? Or failure of the player's power level, okay? Like that could also be it, you know? Like if you have a shit build and you get one-shot all the time, it's like, at that point it's your fault, not really like the devs can't do much about it, you know? But like if you're using a meta build, which most people are, I think, okay, maybe not, but like at least like I am using a meta build and I still get one shot like sometimes. At least I used to, because I'm playing hardcore. Obviously I didn't get one shot yet. Give it a few days, all right? Or maybe a few hours. It's like, if I'm playing a meta build and I can still get one shot by enemies, that is a failure on the balance team. Because like if you're playing the strongest build in the game and you get one shot, then what the fuck is happening to the people who are not playing the strongest build? Like they must be fucking dying left and right. It's like they're just fucking dying like flies. It's just like boom, 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 1, 2, dead instantly. Like they're dying to the fucking skeletons, all right? It's like, yeah, so basically what they need to do is make these mechanics less bullshit, okay? Like, if I can easily dodge these things and they're not annoying to dodge, like on-death effects are fucking annoying, okay? If they make these effects less annoying and they don't actually one-shot you, then I'm completely fine with whatever the fuck they do, okay? All intended when you get one-shot in PoE, though. Yeah, fucking Path of Exile is like, it's like that fucking game is like, it's basically you're watching Star Wars on your fucking screen. There's just light, just lasers going from left to right. Everything is blowing up, and then there's just this one little enemy who just like slowly walks up to you and just like boops you on your nose and you just fucking explode. You're just dead instantly and you don't even know what happened. You're like, huh? Something hit me, and then you have to go back in your WOD just to look at what actually killed you, and you can't even see it after you rewatch it like 10 times, and you have to go into like 0.01 speed. You have to go frame by frame to actually see what killed you. Like PoE is just fucking built different, let's be honest.
Situations.
In regards to someone, Zeus DNA says we'll be seeing the hotfix notes before the hotfix comes out today. Yeah, we'll get the notes up. The deployment hasn't started and is not starting until later this afternoon, but we'll get the notes up so that players can see it, and we'll be mentioning it so that players can actually read through them and so forth.
Right.
This is a pretty large hotfix in terms of like items that we're actually fixing and the Nightmare Dungeon stuff that we had just talked about.
Yep.
Templar Knights asks, question, can we change the codex in such a way that we can upgrade the values with founded legendary items? This could
Oh, okay, hold up. Okay, this guy is onto something, okay? Like, they're laughing, but that sounds like a great idea. Wait, upgrading the codex? Like, that sounds like some roguelite shit. I'm down for that. Like, I want to see that. Hold up.
could reduce the demand to stash, avoid aspects laying around, easier adopting player to your balance changes, but we still want
Did you see that? Like, this guy was laughing at the start, but then the guy was like starting, like, then he started talking about, okay, this would reduce the need for more stash tabs because you don't need to have as many legendary aspects just laying around in your stash. And suddenly this guy got serious. He was like, wait, hold on, this guy isn't an idiot. He might be onto something. It's like, wait, what? Hold up.
to find items increase codex values.
Yeah, so we know that one of the key things that players are carrying in their stash right now are...
I love the little smirk that this guy did. And then as this guy continued talking, he just like fucking lost that smirk. He was like, wait, what is he gonna say? It's like he just got 100% serious.
Lots and lots of aspects. And we're talking about ways to address that. That's an interesting suggestion.
See, I told you. He actually like thought about it for a second. He was like, wait, hold on, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. He literally just admitted it. He was like, wait, that's actually kind of interesting.
That I think it's sort of going toward the same direction here, which is like, how can we address the case where your stash is completely full of aspects? Certainly having an extra stash tab will not hurt that problem, but I think there's more that we'd like to do in terms of the aspects.
Yeah, it's certainly something we've been discussing internally for a while. Yeah, I think part of this is just the...
Imagine if they just fucking implement the idea that this random chatter had in Twitch chat. Like, that would actually be like insane. Like, if they did that, I would just be like, you know what, props to Blizzard. You're like, you actually listen to the player base, because like that sounds like really good. You know, just like okay, basically the way I took it was like, what he meant by that comment, in my opinion, okay, I don't know if this is actually what he meant, is like every time you find an aspect, you just like salvage it, all right, like quotation marks, and it would improve that aspect in your codex by like, let's say like 1%, you know. So like if it had like a 60 to 100% value, now right at this point, if you have it in your codex, it will always be a 60%. It will always be like the lowest value. But what if every single time you found the same aspect, you could like salvage it and it would increase that number by like 1% or maybe 2%. So like if you found the same aspect like 40 times or 20 times and you salvaged it, you would eventually always be able to just imprint a 100% perfect roll on any of your items with that specific aspect. I feel like that's actually like an amazing idea. That's like a fucking roguelite idea. Like, obviously this couldn't carry on between seasons unless they made it like extremely like low percentages, like making it like extremely slow. But like, yeah, that's not something that will carry on between season. I don't think that would make any sense. But I would fucking like that. I would actually like that. That sounds like really good. Like eventually you would just be getting like perfect rolls at least, or at least like close to them. Like even if I was just, if it has like a 60, between 60 and 100, and I could just like guarantee an 80% roll, like I would be happy with that. Like that, I would be like, okay, I'm gonna use that.
Now, how much fun is it to be able to extract an aspect from an item and be able to maintain that roll? And then how much is that fun so fun that it's worth like some of the inventory pressure that comes about as a result of that? Yeah. That's a conversation we've had within the dev team. We're going to continue to talk about it, but we know that there's definitely a lot of improvements we can make to the Codex of Power, for example, to kind of like be embracing of some of these other like affix extraction systems.
Question from DRJ16. Has the team considered how certain nerfs like weapon cooldown reduction are so much more impactful for certain classes than others?
Yes, the team is definitely aware that some of these changes disproportionately affect, like, you know, the vulnerable damage change disproportionately affecting, you know, like Gold Source. You know, we're definitely aware that some of these changes disproportionately affect some classes and builds more than others.
Swords and barbs.
And this goes back to my earlier point about when we're going to be making changes like this moving forward, that we know we're going to have this have an overall effect of reducing certain effects down, or rather reducing certain like powers or affixes or whatever it is down to a place where we want people to use the baseline to kind of build from for other parts of the game. That when we do those things, it's going to affect these different players in different ways, and they're not going to enjoy that if we've ruined their build in order to try to weed the garden and get things in a better place. Like ultimately, we're going to be trying to do a lot more situations where if we're going to take a thing away, if we're going to update something where it's no longer going to be as valuable as part of your build, we want to provide a lot of other options as part of that. Yeah. Make sure we don't leave the build with a gaping like giant hole in it as a result of the change that we made. So this is going to, again, it's going to mean that moving forward, when we're making like larger scale balance and tuning adjustments, we're going to do those a little bit more slowly as a result, in order to make sure that we're embracing all of these other like components to give a lot of options all at once when we make a change.
Yeah, it goes back to the change we had on the screen before, right? We're going to provide compelling alternatives when we make those kinds of changes.
That's a punchy way to say it.
Punchy way. Kennywa says, question, why did you guys increase the cast time on stuff like leaving dungeons? Feels like you're trying to slow down the game by making us waste time for something that might feel useless.
I mean, I already know the answer why they did that, but like, let's just hear it from them.
We can look at that. We'll continue to evaluate that change. It's a fairly small difference. I know that in an ARPG, small amounts of time can be meaningful. We did add the reset dungeon button back in. It does require that you're outside the dungeon, and so there's kind of a loop there.
Loki5123.
Skosglen 2K now. I can finally chill and look at the stream. There's not much left. It's just like 12 more minutes.
Are you going to add more than 6 or 7 items this season? Are there plans to add more? The feeling is they feel like they would want more items per season that are actually added in.
Yeah, we've always said we wanted to take in the feedback from the players as we kind of got these seasons out the door. So season 1, we add the 32 Malignant Hearts, which I think have been pretty cool. We're going to be looking at the balance. Some of them kind of like lift them up, make them a little more exciting in some places. But broadly, we're pretty happy they generally are. And then we have our uniques and our legendary items that we add with the season as well. I think if we see that there's like a lot of interest in trying to get more of these, we can start trying to think about how we can inject a few more legendaries into the game with each season, a couple more uniques potentially in the game with each season. But we want to continue to see like kind of what the feedback looks like. This is a good example of people asking for more. So yeah, good to know.
I don't know. I don't know. What's your opinion on this? Like, I feel like the amount of legendaries and aspects and that kind of stuff, I think it's like all right. Like, I mean, sure. Like, basically, what they gave us was what, 7 aspects. 2 of them are general. 5 of them are like 1 for each class, basically. And then they gave us 6 uniques, out of which 1 was the fucking ultra rare unique that you'll never see. I guess like, I don't know. I don't actually know if I want more items than that. Like, alright, like you could say like, if this was the first and the last season of Diablo 4, then like obviously I would want more. But like, if you think about it in a way, like every 3 months we are getting like 7 new legendaries. Like at a certain point, the game will have just so fucking many aspects that it will just be like basically impossible to find any specific one. So like maybe I don't even want that. Like I don't think having too many uniques is a good idea, and like too many legendary aspects, because like I mean look at PoE, like Path of Exile, you barely even use any of the legendaries, and if you do use a legendary, I mean a unique or whatever they call it, like you don't actually find it in game. You don't fucking drop it. You just buy it on the auction house because there's just like no fucking way you're gonna find one. And because you can't trade legendaries in Diablo 4, I feel like that could create a huge issue. If they're just like gonna attach like 20 fucking legendaries each season. Exactly. You're not getting a tabula in game. You're buying that shit after you RVT real fast, yeah. Like, yeah, I don't feel like the amount of legendaries we're getting each season is an actual issue. I feel like there's way more other issues. Like as I said, like I think this season would be like received very well if the fucking patch 1.1 didn't happen. Like the actual fucking nerves and that kind of shit. Like I think like the malignant hearts are cool. I like that they give armor, so they basically are just a power creep on the skull that you would instead put in your jewelry. I like the fact that there's like actually new dungeons, which are not really new, they're just reskins, but like I mean, let's be honest, every dungeon is just a reskin of another dungeon. It's just like the point, you know. And it's like we have like the new quest line with Cormond, we have the fucking season journey, we have the battle pass. It's like I feel like this is like a decent season. Like I didn't expect Blizzard to give us anything more. I actually expected them to give us way less. So I was like pleasantly surprised with that. I don't think the amount of content we get in a season really matters right now. What really matters is the fact that the game has like many small issues that need to be fixed. And when that's fixed, we can talk about more content, all right?
Separately from that, like, are you guys looking at potentially like reworking
Yeah,
or redoing
thank you,
some
Dev.
things?
So that means patch 1.1.1 is kind of in that vein of trying to like get these things into a slightly better place. And we do want to go back over our existing legendary power library and identify the ones where they can afford to be lifted up with redesigns and changing the way that some parts of them work, so they've better fulfilled the stated purpose in terms of where they're supposed to sit in builds. So there's gonna be a lot of opportunities for that along the way as well. It's not gonna be the only way we inject like new fun in the game isn't going to just be through the season mechanic, isn't just going to be through the addition of brand new legendaries and uniques, but also going back over the existing legendary powers after we see players use them a little bit more, making adjustments accordingly.
Question from Panda Mousy and Mormra. Same question actually. What's your plan for resistances?
She just said no more and decided to fix everything to save his remaining hairline. On the player base, like pretty much. It's like, I'll be honest, I don't think they're gonna say too much more. But like, you know what, let me just finish the video, then I'll give my thoughts.
Right now, they feel like a wasted stat. Do we have any changes to resistances that might be changing maybe sooner or later, or how's that going to work?
Resistances fall in one of those categories where if we need to make a change to the way the resistance damage is, or rather, the way the players use resistance to mitigate damage from certain sources. And it's going to be a far-reaching change when we actually go through and make this, which means we want to be able to take the time with it and do it properly. It's going to be, right now we plan to put that into Season 2 as part of a larger rework. So you can look forward to more information as we get a little bit closer to Season 2.
Shadow Mun, sorry. Can campaign bosses be added to the pool of dungeon bosses that we encounter? I feel like campaign bosses are underutilized.
I think there could be more opportunities to fight some of those campaign bosses in the future. I can't comment further on exactly.
Okay, the way he said it, okay, tinfoil hat theory. It will be part of the next season mechanic. Like fighting campaign bosses is going to be part of the next season mechanic. That's my tinfoil hat prediction. Because like the way he said it, it sounds like they already have it like prepared right now. And they're like right now, they pretty much, I think Season 2 is like pretty much finished at this point, isn't it? Or maybe it's like close to being finished. Like I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Like usually devs are like one season ahead of the player base at all times. So like I think they already implemented it.
How that will look, but I agree with that sentiment.
Sounds good. Okay.
Joey's often said this, so like we definitely want to make sure we find the right ways to bring bosses in. Yeah.
Yes.
Visions of Lilith. Go back to past encounters and fight these bosses with added mechanics. Yeah, like something like that. And I think it would be actually cool because like, for example, Astaroth was an amazing fight. Like it looked great, you know. Then fucking I mean, Andariel was also like pretty fucking decent in my opinion. Like she had like a bunch of mechanics that actually felt good to dodge. You know, it was like an actual fight. Duriel, on the other hand, that was kind of a shitballs. Like I don't even know what he did. Like I literally have no idea what Duriel did. He just died. Like that's it. He just fucking died. He spawned with a bunch of maggots and perished. I don't know what he did.
Yeah.
This is actually a question. Party Cannon 30. Hi there, guys. Can you? Thanks for the information. My question is about crashes on PlayStation 5. Is that a known issue? We are aware of some issues on consoles, specifically Xbox, PlayStation, like that maybe having crash issues and whatnot from their side. I do want to note, like I know with 1.10, there was a bug fix towards a specific memory leak that the team was trying to identify and find, and they actually did find it, and it was addressed there. There's actually an additional fix in 1.11 because I've seen a lot of questions, whether on Reddit and so forth, about PC performance and so forth, and even on like just performance in general, that will be addressed there. And I know that the engineers here are still actively, troubleshooting and figuring out like specific situations that players might be running into. Of course, if you have like more information on those, please post in console bugs on our forums and give as much information as possible. Because a lot of those repro steps on our side are sometimes really difficult, and it helps our teams out, helps our QA teams out to be able to see if they can actually repro the same type of issues that players are having. Do you guys plan on introducing more ways? I'm sorry, this is Mr. I don't want to butcher that.
Yeah.
Do you guys plan on introducing more craft / modify gear? Currently, only gold has value. And only one stack can be rolled.
More ways to craft and modify gear.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, we do want to add more options for players to kind of modify the items they're getting. What we have really in like the preseason now, the season 1 stage, is still very like a baseline experience in terms of item modification. We are looking at more opportunities in the future to allow players to do more with their items. So yeah,
That's good.
A plan for the future.
Cool.
The Almighty Striker says, why does the Necrominions take? Why do they take ability slots? It could be easily a different button. How many of Necrominion builds have beat Uber Lilith? Lots of questions about, is there? We already answered the drop rates for uniques and so forth. That was the second part of the
Those are
question,
good questions because like if you're playing a necromancer minion build, all right, if you literally just want to play a necromancer who has minions, it doesn't even have to be like focused on minions. You literally do not get to choose 3 of your abilities because first of all you get your fucking skeletons, you get your golem, and third of all you get like your curse that's like decrepify or the other one, I'm not sure which one, but like one of the curses. Those are like 3 abilities that you can never ever change, period. Like you always have to use these 3 abilities. So like basically anytime you want to play with minions, you only get to choose 3 different abilities. It's like a kind of a better version of a sorceress. Because if you're playing a Sorc, you don't get to choose 4 abilities because you always need Frost Nova, you always need Ice Armor, you always need Flame Shield, and you always need Teleport. Like basically Sorc just like that's just her build forever. Like those 4 abilities don't change ever. It's like, I guess like a minion necro is like a light version of that. Yeah, and it's a dog shit system, just to be clear, because it feels bad because like your build diversity just doesn't exist at that point. It's like you can't do shit if you can't choose these abilities.
But I guess the question mostly is about Necromancer minions and ability slots. Also, I saw other questions related to companions, whether they're Druid companions with wolves or Necromancer minions, if there's any changes or plans for those to actually potentially get a little bit more tweaked up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is something we do care about. One of the things that that sounded dismissive.
Yeah, we care about a lot of things. But go on.
What I was just trying to get to another point, which is there's some really cool stuff in some of the Malignant Hearts that affects this in terms of like kind of getting credit for additional abilities.
Yeah.
And we do care a lot about the number of the sort of like ratio of ability to number of slots that it takes out and making that as optimal as possible.
Yeah, that's right. We want to make sure that if you're going to play Necromancer and you're going to summon skeletons, that you are going to be. I mean, that takes up that's the weight of an ability. Like it's the same as having an active. You need to like play with it. It's going to take a little bit of space in your bar. You don't get that in addition to a bunch of other things. If you don't want to have skeletons on your bar right now, the idea you'd be sacrifice a lot of those skills in order to give you that extra space. And in terms of the viability of like minion builds at various parts of the game, there are some builds that will like get pretty deep into content, obviously, but I think there's still room for improvement in terms of like minion survivability and other conversations along those lines. That is something still happening. And then there was the other conversation, the question about Druid companions, right?
Yeah, kind of similar to Necromancer minions, and people were asking like, can that ever be a viable thing?
Yeah, I think possibly. We see players. Actually, there are a few players that run like literally all 3 companion skills and use that as part of the build that they'll go after for their druid. And I think that there's likely room here to do more with companion skills. Whether it rises to the full level of like a complete like spec, I think it's going to be interesting. But I know that there's people on the team that are very excited about trying to explore more of this side of the druid over time. But we don't have as many. There aren't as many interconnecting points for the way that you interact with your companions right now, and the way that like the skeleton army does for the necromancer, in terms of ways that you modify them and do more with them. So I think there's some groundwork we need to do to like provide a lot more options there. But something the team's interested in. Yeah.
I'm gonna do one last question here, which is, will there be better loot tables for like treasure goblins, any alternate goblin types specifically for those?
Yeah, I think we loved how many, D3 has like all kinds of. There's like 10 different kinds of goblins, or 14 maybe. It's been a little while since I looked at that data. In the editor. But we think that there's lots of room for there to be more fun goblin types in the future.
And in terms of the treasure goblins have the tendency to provide, we actually had a conversation with the lead systems designer last week talking about this. We are making we are buffing like legendary drop chance, for example, from items that will appear from treasure goblins. We do want them to be to feel a little bit more exciting when the moment they drop.
Oh, that's great. Like I was complaining about that just today. Like I want every goblin to drop at least 1 legendary. If they can't even do that, then what's the point?
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. Well, I know we talked about a lot today. I just want to recap some stuff that we had mentioned today. Obviously, we've been hearing a lot of feedback regarding the patch, and we're telling you guys now that we completely hear you loud and clear. We don't plan on doing patches like this ever again, where we're not going to be essentially removing the fun and the player power from players drastically like this. Yeah. And if we ever do that for any type of class, like a build or whatnot, we'll make sure that there's always some really good alternatives for players to actually be able to try out a different build that will also be boosted way back up to kind of help out and give other options for players to actually kind of jump into. And we will ourselves do a better job of course, communicating back to the community. Again, what we're saying now is that we will be getting patch notes in front of the community way earlier in advance, whether through a campfire chat or through like a blog of some sort or any type of communication, so that you guys can get a better chance at looking at patch notes beforehand, seeing any type of changes that might be coming down beforehand, because I think communication was key here. I think you guys not seeing what we were planning on doing and us kind of giving that vision really affected a lot of the response from you guys. And I think if we just provided that over to everyone and gave a little bit more of a heads up, I think it would have helped a whole lot there from that specific situation.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's absolutely one part of it, and you were talking about it in a more full way. But I want to really make sure I hit on like one of the really great points of feedback that we've been seeing is like, why can you nerf things today and then buff things far in the future, right? And so what we're saying is not only is there a change to communication, but we're also going to pair changes like that together so that we don't have exactly the situation that players have called out as unfair.
Yep. Most definitely. And of course, with 1-on-1 coming really soon, we are committing to another campfire chat next week, next Friday. Probably the same time, we'll confirm. More than likely it'll be 11 a.m. next Friday. We'll end up posting about the details over the next week, so that just as a reminder to the community. And there we'll actually go through all the changes that we just talked about here into greater detail. Joe, I know, will end up providing greater detail changes on like the barbarian and sorcerer adjustments that we're going to be making based off of community feedback. And then of course, we'll also be talking about just essentially everything in the patch notes for that. Patch 1.1.1 will be coming out in a couple weeks. With us having a stream next Friday, I anticipate it being very soon or shortly after the stream specifically. So, and again, we do have a hotfix today that we will be rolling out this afternoon. We'll be having notes related to that hotfix here really soon, and there's a lot of changes in there, including the Nightmare Dungeon changes that we talked about today. So, again, thank you guys for the feedback. We most definitely hear you loud and clear. It's something that we wanted to address, and it's something very important for the team here for us to actually address the community and talk to you guys more about it, and also change some of the ways that we were doing specific items or specific processes. So we really do appreciate the feedback. Of course, continue providing feedback to us. It's really important for the game itself and for us to make a better experience for the players out there. So thank you guys again for tuning in.
Thank you.
We'll see you next Friday for the next campfire chat to talk about patch 1.1.1 and all the things that are coming up. Really appreciate it.
Bye. Okay, goodbye. All right, cool. Great. Let me just talk about it for a little bit. First of all, it happens at 11 a.m. their time, so that once it's done, Rod can go straight to lunch break after finishing his cookies. He's the one who picks these times. Like, I just had this weird fucking aware moment about Rod. Like, they probably straight up told him that you cannot come into this stream because this one is actually important and serious. Like, we can't have you talk about your fucking malignant tunnel this time because it's just gonna fuck everything up. And I just imagine this sad Rod just being like, oh okay, sure. I don't know why. It was literally just the fucking aware emote. Like, my god, I feel bad for Rod a little bit. It's like he's just sadly eating cookies in the corner. Yeah, it's like, but okay, my thoughts. Okay, first of all, great fucking stream. All right, I can guarantee you, anyone who watched this stream is like 20 times less mad. Maybe they're even like not mad at all after this one. Yeah, okay, guys, I'll just eat my cookies in the office. Tell me if you want to hang out after you're done, guys. It's just fucking free friends and Jerry. Oh my god. Like, so the thing is, I do not care about what they say. I do not care about promises. Promises mean nothing, okay? Like, the fact that this even happened in the first place, I don't understand why it happened. I do not understand who thought it was a good idea to split the patch apart, where, like, you know, like, it was supposed to be one patch that gave us nerfs and buffs at the same time, and for some reason they just split it apart into nerfs and buffs just like come later. Okay, first of all, that was an insane decision. Like, why the fuck would anyone do that? Second of all, if they knew that they were doing it, why didn't they tell us in the patch notes themselves that they would be giving us buffs later on, and that later on was literally later today? Like, literally one day after the season. Like, buddy. Like, if they literally just said in the patch notes, like, hey, we're shipping these nerfs, but like, look forward to the patch that is going to buff your ass literally one day after the season starts, and everyone will be like, oh, okay, let's just hold our anger until the patch arrives. Like, it would still be stupid to split it apart, but at least if they announced it, people would be way less mad. Okay, like, for example, I wouldn't be mad at all. I would be like, oh, okay, sure. Like, because like the only thing that I was angry about, okay, and I still think like the player base overreacted about the XP nerfs. Like, the only thing that I was actually mad about were the balance nerfs, and the fact that they were like completely fucking dumb, in my opinion. Like, you know, nerfing Sorks. Like, I don't need to be a fucking balance. I don't need to be on a balance team to know that nerfing Sorks is like the stupidest fucking idea that you can make. It's just like, why? You know, but like, if I knew that there would be a patch coming on the 21st, I guess for Europe it's 22nd. I doubt it's gonna come out in 2 hours. Yeah, I don't think it's out yet, so I don't think it's gonna come out. It's like, if we knew that, I feel like most people wouldn't even be angry. So basically, like, okay, the patch that comes out later today, well, for us it's late, it's early tomorrow, okay, for Europe. That patch is apparently going to fix all of our issues, which is amazing. And all of the issues that it doesn't fix are going to be fixed like in like 8, 9, maybe like 10 days. Okay, probably like 10 days. Like, my estimate is literally 10 days. Like, I would say that it's gonna be not next week, but like maybe like Monday or Tuesday on the next week, like the week after the next week. So like, once again, 10 days. Like, that's my guesstimate based on what they said. And like, some of the things that they said, first of all, Nightmare Dungeon 100, okay, tier 100, which is like the hardest content in the game, will apparently be as hard as tier 70 is right now. And I can tell you, tier 70 dungeon is pretty fucking easy, okay? Compared to Nightmare 100, that's like really fucking easy. Like, tier 70 is, I believe, enemies who are level 124 compared to 154, which is like insane, you know, like an insane difference. Like if you tell me that the enemies are gonna be that hard, just like 124 level enemies, then I'm like, okay, I can actually do that on hardcore like easily, which is great because I wanted to do it this season. Then they're going to be giving us more stash tabs. I don't remember if that's coming tomorrow, or if that's coming in like those 10 days, but it's coming in one of those two patches. Elixir stacks are increased to 99. Respec costs are down by like 40%. Once again, I'm not sure when that's happening. Like, but like I'm only talking about the things that are going to happen in like. Yeah, okay, this Wowhead is saying that it will be patch 1.1.1 that adds free stash tabs. Okay, and it will also be the patch that gives us respec costs. You know what's funny? It's funny how Wowhead didn't give us like the most important info yet, which is like the fact that nightmare dungeons are going to be easier. I guess, you know what, maybe stash tabs are even more important than that. Now that I think about it, stash tabs might actually be more important. Like the respec costs, I feel like most people don't give a fuck about this. Like, yes, people have been complaining about the respec costs like being too high, but I think it's still affordable. Like, as they said, like, yeah, right now, refunding all of your nodes is costing like 4.3 million, and apparently it's going to cost like 2.6 million if it's actually 40%. Okay, like they literally just like did the math. And the Paragon board respec costs 8.8 million, and it's apparently gonna cost like 5.3 million. Like sure, I couldn't really care less. Like, I'll be honest, at level 100 you're making so much money that you can basically respec like quite often. Okay, let's just say that. It doesn't really even matter. But yeah, basically all they said is good. Okay, there's the fucking, okay, hold up, there's a chat summary. Yeah, so they will make leveling easier. Yeah, and they will increase monster density in nightmare dungeons and during hell tides. Sork buffs and barb buffs, primary focus of this patch. I don't think it's a primary focus of this patch. I'm pretty sure they're like the classes that will be primarily buffed, but it's not like the actual primary focus of this patch. I don't think that's what they said, but like sure. Yeah, and they said that they will handle the updates better. As I said, I do not care about what they say they will do. I only care about the results. So if the next patch, I mean, if the next, yeah, like, okay, if the next patch is good, I will be positive. If it's bad, I will shit on them. It's like, once again, like, I only care about what actually happens. And oh yeah, one thing I wanted to say, okay, like I don't think I'm gonna play Diablo 4 because I don't know, like this stream just kind of made me feel asleep. So I'll just go to sleep and I'll be here probably early tomorrow. But like before I end this, I want to end it on like a positive note. I just want to say one thing. I really, really, really appreciate the fact that these campfire live streams even exist. I appreciate the fact that they actually talk to the player base on Twitter, and they just like, you know, like talk about random stuff and shit like that. It's like the communication with players has been like a trillion times better than whatever Blizzard did before this. Like, I played World of Warcraft, and I can tell you, the fucking communication in World of Warcraft would literally just be, hey, you get a patch every like 6 months, and the patch is gonna do something, and we don't give a shit what you think about it. Like, that was basically how World of Warcraft worked. That was basically how Diablo 3 worked the entire time. I guess they would, with Diablo 3, we at least had like a patch every 3 months rather than every 6 months. So like, I guess it was better in that way. But like, yeah, with StarCraft, with Warcraft, with Diablo 2, with every single game, they pretty much never ever talked to you at all. And they just like released a patch, and if people were mad, they generally didn't give a shit. Like they just released their patches at a specific interval, and that was it. But Diablo 4, it seems they are at least talking to us. Whether they are actually listening is to be seen in patch 1.1.1, or maybe later tomorrow. I mean, early tomorrow for Europe. And I just want to say, like, I really appreciate these live streams, okay? Because it definitely feels like people are very, very negative during these live streams, but I firmly believe that people are way happier that these live streams at least exist rather than if they didn't exist and we were just yelling into the void, which is what happened with like every other Blizzard game. These live streams brought us the man, the myth, the legend rod. Yeah, so like I hope they don't stop doing this, because like I feel like they could easily get discouraged, because like pretty much every time they appear on stream, everyone is just shitting on them. Which is like in its own way kind of funny, but like, you know, if you stop making bad decisions, people will stop shitting on you. Mostly. Okay, like some people will shit on you no matter what, and like you can't really please those people, but like, yeah. Basically, good live stream. As I said, like I was going into this with the mindset that season 1 isn't actually as bad as people make it out to be. Because like I feel like the people who are complaining about this season are probably people who aren't even playing it. And the people who are actually playing it, they're kind of like, oh yeah, this is like decent. Like the actual nerfs, I can't even feel them. But I'm playing a druid, and that might be like a big part of it, okay? Like maybe like I 100% believe that Sorks and Barbarians are unplayable. And whoever fucking plays those classes, at this point, it's kind of your own fault, because like if everyone is telling you that these two classes are unplayable, why would you play them? Like, I'm just saying, you know, like they shouldn't be unplayable in the first place, but like you were warned, so why did you pick them, you know? But yeah, basically, I think it's decent live stream. I look forward to tomorrow's patch. I don't think it's gonna change anything in the early game, aka the place that I'm at, but at least it might make late game easier. So anyway, that's it. I think that's it. Yeah, I will chill out, go to sleep, and I'll be back early tomorrow. I mean, technically I streamed today in total for 10 hours and like 30 minutes. If I combine the two streams together, which I don't know if that's allowed, but like who cares. Anyway, I'll be back. But yeah, that's about it. Yeah, see ya.